Chapter 1591. A trace of anger appeared on the captain's face, and he turned to look at the carriage behind him. Zhao Fu nodded slightly, and the captain smiled in understanding. He exchanged glances with the guards beside him, and the others also understood. The numerous guards suddenly attacked, and a cold light slashed towards the leopard men. The leopard men didn't think that these people would really dare to attack them. Facing the attack of over 100 guards, the group of leopard men naturally didn't have the strength to fight back. They were directly killed. On the other side, the bound goat people looked terrified and did not know what to do. Now that they were tied up like this, they could not escape even if they wanted to. The caravan captain asked Zhao Fu for instructions on how to deal with these goat men. Zhao Fu's gaze fell on the two goat-headed women, and he lightly smiled as he said, "Bring them here and release everyone else." The captain nodded and took some people to cut off the ropes and let them leave. The goat person expressed his gratitude and quickly left. As for the two women, they were also brought to the front of the carriage. The two women didn't know what was going on, but when the caravan captain told them that their lord wanted to see them, they couldn't refuse. They wanted to hurry back, but they were worried about their father and husband's injuries, so they got on the carriage and decided to see their lord first. However, their lewd moans soon rang out from within the carriage. Zhao Fu rode on top of them, savoring the taste of the two goat-headed women. Afterward, Zhao Fu held Yang He and Yang Lily in his arms. The two girls were in Zhao Fu's embrace. Their faces flushed red as they panted weakly. They looked shy and embarrassed to face each other. Yang Lily didn't expect her gentle sister-in-law to have such a lascivious side. Yang He was embarrassed to face Yang Lily. Of course, she was also a little surprised. Yang Lily's performance under another man seemed very pure. However, they didn't stay shy for too long because they still had things to do. Yang He looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes and said pleadingly, "Sir, Zhao Fu, I'm willing to help you. Our father and husband are seriously injured. We want to go back and have a look. Can you let us go back? When we return, we will serve you well." Zhao Fu chuckled and agreed to let the caravan head towards the village. The village already knew that the leopard man had been killed because those people had already escaped. As for the old man and the young man, they had been carried into the house and given some simple medicine to treat them. By now, they had regained consciousness, and after hearing about what had happened, they couldn't help but feel worried. However, the merchant group had arrived, and the two women had returned to their side. They had also brought with them high-quality medicinal pills, allowing them to quickly recover. Some of the goat people were afraid of the merchant group, mainly because the merchant group was too powerful. They were also afraid that the leopard people would attack them, as the merchant group had killed the leopard people and were worried that they would be implicated. "My wife, that's great, you're fine." The goat-headed young man was still a little weak, and he happily hugged Yang He. Yang He looked at Zhao Fu and shyly pushed the young man over as she said softly, "All right, your body is quite weak, and it's best that you rest." The young man smiled as he lay on the bed, not noticing that anything was off. He had no idea how lewd his wife had been under Zhao Fu's body. Moreover, his wife now had Zhao Fu's mark on her, and she was no longer his wife. Zhao Fu sat by the side and started to talk to the elderly goat person. The elderly goat person's injuries were not very heavy, so he recovered quite quickly. Zhao Fu mainly asked about two things. One was the situation in this place, and the other was about the goat people and whether or not they had any ancestral power. The first thing Zhao Fu learned was that this kingdom situation was quite special. 60% of its people were leopard people and 40% were goat people. In this kingdom, the goat people were the ones who were enslaved and oppressed. The goat people were either very docile or weak, and they did not dare to resist. As such, the leopard people humiliated the goat people even more, resulting in this scene. The second thing Zhao Fu learned was that the goat people had an ability called the goat people's blessing. It required at least 1 million goat people to cast it, and the more goat people there were, the greater the blessing. This blessing could give the goat people ancestral power, and it had good effects on one's fate and could slightly improve one's constitution. Zhao Fu felt quite interested in the goat people's blessing, and he suggested that he could help the goat people change this situation. The elderly goat person understood that Zhao Fu was not an ordinary person, so he gave him a hint. This notification was to find the leader of the goat people, Yang Long. He was the only one who could do such a thing. Yang Long had great prestige in the hearts of the goat people, and only he could lead the goat people to raise the flag of resistance. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu and the merchant group quickly got up. Zhao Fu naturally took Yang He and Yang Lily with him. The elderly goat person knew about his daughter and daughter-in-law's relationship with Zhao Fu. When they came back, their faces were quite red, and it was obvious that they had done it with a man. Moreover, their gazes would occasionally fall on Zhao Fu's body. A while later, Zhao Fu's merchant group came to a goat people city. Most of the people here were goat people, and there were no leopard people. Yang Long was the city lord here. Zhao Fu did not waste any time and went to the city hall to have someone report that he had something to do with the goat people's fate. Yang Long quickly summoned Zhao Fu. Yang Long was a middle-aged man with a trace of coldness and a powerful aura. He sat in the hall and looked at Zhao Fu as he said, "What do you have to do with the goat people's fate?" Facing Yang Long's sharp gaze, Zhao Fu lightly laughed, and a terrifying aura exploded out. Yang Long had heaven realm cultivation, so Zhao Fu used his nation armament's power, which was why he was able to scare Yang Long. As expected, sensing Zhao Fu's terrifying aura, Yang Long's face became pale, and he felt quite terrified. His body slightly trembled, and he no longer looked as cold and aloof as before. He immediately came down and said courteously, "Sir, I'm afraid that Zhao Fu might not be able to defeat Zhao Fu. Please take a seat." Zhao Fu gave a satisfied smile and sat next to Yang Long. Yang Long did not dare to sit on the same level as Zhao Fu, so he got down from his seat and smiled as he asked, "Sir, what do you want? Do you really have something to say?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu smiled and nodded as he said, "I've come to make you the king of a kingdom. I just need all of the goat people to gather here and cast the goat people's blessing on me." Chapter 1592. To Yang Long, becoming the king of a kingdom was something that he would never be able to do in his lifetime, which was why he was so happy. Yang Long said excitedly, "Sir, what do you think I should do next? I'll listen to everything you say. That goat person has blessed me, and I'll definitely gather all of the goat people." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "Tell all of the goat people to prepare to rebel at the same time. Leave the leopard people's main force to me, and you just need to take down the cities." Hearing that it would be so easy, Yang Long grinned and agreed, and he secretly spread the news. This would take some time, and now that the sun had set and night had fallen, Yang Long prepared a sumptuous feast for Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu did not refuse and gave him face. At the banquet, Zhao Fu looked at a beautiful woman and a pair of twin sisters sitting next to him and gave a trace of an interested smile. The beautiful woman had a voluptuous figure and a pretty face, and she gave off a gentle aura. The twin sisters next to her had graceful figures and were quite beautiful. They gave off a gentle and quiet aura and looked quite alluring. Yang Long sensed Zhao Fu's gaze and smiled as he introduced them. "This is my wife, Yang Mei, and she has a pair of daughters. If Sir is interested, I'll have them serve Sir tonight." Zhao Fu looked at them and pretended to hesitate as he said, "That's not too good, right? After all, they're your wife and daughters." Yang Long did not feel angry at all and smiled as he said, "Sir has helped me so much, so it's only right for my wife and daughters to serve you. Sir, please don't refuse. I'll order people to send them to your room later." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I won't hold back then." During the banquet, Yang Long praised Zhao Fu in all sorts of ways because he was going to become king in the future. When that time came, he would have everything and would be a terrifying existence that reigned above tens of thousands of people. He would be the most prestigious king in this kingdom. Zhao Fu gave Yang Long enough face and smiled, and he even gave him a few rare items. After the banquet concluded, Zhao Fu went to the room that Yang Long had prepared for him. His beautiful wife and daughters were sitting on the bed with sad looks on their faces. Yang Mei's eyes were filled with tears. She had never thought that her husband would give her to someone else and have her serve another man. The twin sisters looked quite angry and glared at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu did not care about their emotions, and he pulled them onto the bed and started to do it with them, enjoying the feeling of the mother and daughter. Outside, Yang Long heard the intense sounds coming from the room and heard his wife and daughter's moans. The next day, all of the goat people started to move. They gathered their troops everywhere and gave off ferocious auras as they attacked cities. The leopard people had not made any preparations at all, and they had never expected that the weak and cowardly goat people they had bullied and humiliated would actually rebel today. Moreover, it was a direct rebellion, and they could not believe this. The goat people were caught off guard, easily taking down city after city and region after region, giving off a ferocious aura. The leopard kingdom was infuriated and mobilized countless armies to suppress the leopard kingdom. Even though the goat people had an advantage, the majority of the leopard people in this kingdom were leopard people. Moreover, they usually controlled all sorts of resources, and their cultivation and equipment were superior to the goat people. This time, the leopard people planned to defeat the goat people in one fell swoop and enslave them. They had wanted to do this, but they had been worried that too many goat people would resist, so they had not done so. Now was their best opportunity. As long as they defeated the goat people, all of the goat people would become slaves and would no longer have any rights. They would be able to kill them and sell them as they pleased. They would not be given any rights at all. The assembled army set out majestically, but not long after, they suffered a fatal blow. Countless black streaks of light suddenly attacked from one side. The streaks of light easily slashed apart the soldiers' bodies, causing blood to fly everywhere. Countless howls sounded out, and countless people did not know what had happened before becoming a pile of mutilated corpses on the ground. Zhao Fu stood in the air and unleashed his terror aura. Black sword lights brought with them countless sword winds slashed out, turning the soldiers into mincemeat. Blood dyed the ground red and gave off a dense stench of blood. After a few moments, the army of close to 1,000,000 soldiers became a pile of corpses on the ground, and only a small number of people were able to escape. The leopard people's higher-ups fell into shock and terror. That was the leopard people's most elite army, yet they had been destroyed so easily. Just what sort of terrifying faction had the other side invited? The leopard people were about to die. The countless goat people were delirious with delight and wantonly attacked this city because they understood that they would definitely win this time. Yang Long happily laughed. It had not been a waste for him to give his wife and daughter to Zhao Fu. It had all been worth it. Soon, the goat people army reached the royal city and surrounded it. The leopard people's expressions were all quite unsightly and pale. They now understood that they would definitely lose this time. The goat people looked delighted and excited. They were about to take control of this kingdom and become its masters. Yang Long stood at the front of the army and gave off a domineering aura as he shouted, "The leopard kingdom has already perished. Don't resist. Don't worry, as long as you're willing to submit, I'll treat you well in the future." In the sky opposite, there were 3 women. These 3 women were the 3 queens of the leopard head country. One had long, golden hair that was tied into a braid. She had a seductive figure and a beautiful face. She had a pair of leopard ears and a tail, and her skin was covered with golden leopard patterns. One had short, violet hair and also had leopard ears and a tail. She had violet leopard patterns and had a fiery figure. One had short, red hair and an even more fiery figure. She was quite beautiful and had leopard ears and a tail, as well as red leopard patterns. The 3 women all gave off an intense wildness and looked quite proud and ferocious. They were not to be trifled with. Their names were Bao Jing, Bao Zi, and Bao Hongya. Bao Jing furiously looked at Yang Long and said angrily, "If I knew things would turn out like this, I would have long since killed you goat people and made you slaves forever. That way, things would not have turned out like this." Yang Long coldly harumphed, "Since you're not willing to surrender, don't blame me. All troops attack. Kill." Chapter 1593. Within the palace, Zhao Fu started to do it with the 3 leopard queens. Before the battle had even started, Zhao Fu had waved his hand and countless chains flew out, binding them up. This caused the goat people's aura to greatly increase, while the leopard people looked incredibly despaired, and the battle quickly ended. Afterwards, Zhao Fu hugged the 3 leopard queens in his embrace. Their faces were red and they breathed raggedly. These 3 leopard queens were not ordinary beasts, and Zhao Fu had spent a great deal of effort to tame them. However, taming them gave him a sense of satisfaction and enjoyment. Bao Jing lay in Zhao Fu's embrace and looked at Zhao Fu as she said, "Bastard, we want you to let off our families. We don't want anything else, and you can do whatever you want with our bodies." Zhao Fu hugged her and lightly laughed as he said, "It's naturally not a problem for me to let off your family, but you have to take out something that I'm interested in. I want anything related to your ancestors' items, as well as other similar items or powers. Even godly spirits are fine." Bao Hongya angrily hit Zhao Fu a few times and said, "Our bodies are already yours, and yet you still want something? How infuriating." Bao Zi thought for a moment and said, "We have something similar to our ancestors, and this is a leopard soul pearl. It's condensed from our souls and has powerful soul energy. I'll give it to you now, and you can let off our families." She took out a crystal pearl that was as big as a lychee. There was a violet image of a leopard that gave off a faint violet light and a powerful aura. Zhao Fu took the crystal pearl in satisfaction and smiled as he said, "You don't have to worry. I promise that I won't harm your families." The 3 leopard queens let out sighs of relief. Now that the leopard kingdom had been destroyed, the only thing they were worried about was keeping their lives and the lives of their families. Now that things had been resolved, they gave beautiful smiles. Bao Hongya happily laughed as she said, "Bastard, we'll continue after I rest for a while. This time, I definitely won't beg for mercy." Zhao Fu smiled as he lifted her chin and said, "Let's come back later. Now all of you get up. I want to refine this leopard soul pearl immediately. You will need to leave for a while. You can also go see your loved ones. After that, I will bring you along." Hearing this, the 3 leopard queens smiled and agreed because this was something they were concerned about. They put on simple clothes and left the room. Zhao Fu sat cross-legged on the bed and took out the leopard soul pearl. He opened his mouth and swallowed it. The leopard soul pearl exploded with a simple purple light that passed through Zhao Fu's body and shot outside. A purple leopard image appeared within Zhao Fu's body. Facing this violet leopard, Zhao Fu was not too surprised. He used his massive divine bloodline's power to cover the image and started to absorb its power bit by bit. Slowly, the leopard became weaker and weaker. Then, it turned into specks of light and disappeared. The crystal bead also slowly melted. Zhao Fu not only felt a massive wave of power quickly fusing into his body, but he also felt a massive wave of mental energy fusing into his soul, causing his mental energy to continuously grow. Zhao Fu once again felt a pain on his back as a leopard person totem appeared on Zhao Fu's back. Sensing the violet totem on his back, Zhao Fu grinned and stretched his body before going outside. Now it was time to receive the blessings of the goat people. The goat people had all gathered together, and there were 20 million or so of them. There was an altar at the center, and Zhao Fu stood on it. The goat people all looked at Zhao Fu with respect and worship. It was Zhao Fu who had saved them. If it wasn't for Zhao Fu, they would have been bullied and humiliated. The blessings began. The countless goat people praised Zhao Fu as traces of white aura rose up from their bodies. This aura seemed to be fate and also seemed to be faith energy, and it continuously condensed in the sky. The massive aura condensed into a goat person that was hundreds of meters tall, and it gave off a massive aura as it appeared in the sky. The goat person's eyes did not show any joy or sorrow, and its expression was quite wooden. It gave off a massive aura that formed a wild gale as it rushed towards Zhao Fu, and it flooded into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu felt a massive wave of power enter his body, and his body exploded out with a powerful aura. Countless traces of white light came out of Zhao Fu's body, and it was not intense, but rather gentle. This caused Zhao Fu, who was standing on the altar, to seem like a godly spirit, receiving the faith of countless people. Zhao Fu once again felt a pain on his back as a white goat person totem once again appeared on his back. After receiving the goat people's blessings, Zhao Fu did not stay for long and continued onwards with the merchant group. Yang Long hoped that Zhao Fu would stay for a few more days. After all, the Goat Kingdom had only just been established, and many places were not very stable yet. If Zhao Fu remained here, no one would dare to resist. However, if Zhao Fu left, other people would start to think about it, and Yang Long would have to carefully rule and slowly consolidate his power. After leaving the Goat Kingdom, the merchant group traveled for another day before arriving at the fox race's world. Most of the people here were from the fox race, and they all had fox ears and tails. The men were handsome, and the women were flirtatious, and they looked quite pleasing to the eye. The caravan returned to their own caravan and ended their trip. Zhao Fu followed Hu Shan to a grand and luxurious residence and met her family. Hu Shan handed over the various matters of the merchant group to them, and she told them that she was leaving with Zhao Fu. Some people in the merchant group were both delighted and sad. One of them was Hu Shan's husband's older brother. Now that Hu Shan was gone, the merchant group would be his. Many people who liked Hu Shan were also quite reluctant and sad. Hu Shan was not reluctant to part with this. Ever since she had met Zhao Fu, her life and fate had gone through massive changes. She was no longer the same Hu Shan from before, and she would enter a higher-level world. She would no longer be afraid of everything as a small faction. After dealing with these matters, Hu Shan and Zhao Fu left and headed to the center of the fox race's world. That was where the fox race's meeting was being held. Zhao Fu heard about this meeting, which was to use martial power to fight for the Heaven Fox Stone. The person with the most power would obtain it, and the nearby fox race geniuses would participate. Chapter 1594. Zhao Fu quickly set off by himself. If he brought too many people to fight for the Heaven Fox Stone, it would be too troublesome, so Zhao Fu had them wait for him. A day later, Zhao Fu arrived at the fox race meeting. Most of the people who came were from the fox race, and it was rare to see outsiders. All of them gave off powerful auras and had many tails, with the most having 7 tails. Zhao Fu found a secluded corner and silently waited for the competition to begin. Zhao Fu did not plan to use his nation armament, so he naturally had to keep a low profile. He mainly wanted to temper his strength and not rely too much on his nation armament. At that moment, a white and chubby middle-aged man appeared on a stage and loudly announced, "The competition will now begin." At the same time, 5 young men and women giving off cold and arrogant auras appeared and sat on 5 chairs on the stage. The first was an evil-looking man from the fox race. His clothes were disheveled, and he gave off a trace of laziness. He had 7 tails and was called Hu Xie, and he was the most powerful person in the fox race. He was also the biggest competitor for the Heaven Fox Stone. One had a cold and elegant face and a graceful figure. She had snow-white skin and was dressed in white clothes. She also had 7 tails and was called Hu Langlang. She was the second-ranked expert in the fox race and came from a large faction. The third was an honest-looking young man who gave off a powerful aura. He also had 7 tails and was called Hu Ho. The fourth was a ferocious-looking man with a big and well-built figure. He was the 4th-ranked expert and was called Hu Sha. The last was a beautiful woman with a mature figure. She wore a light yellow dress and looked quite delicate. She was the 5th-ranked expert and was called Hu Meili. The 5 people were the most powerful people in the fox race, and they came from different factions. They were the ones who had the best chance of obtaining the Heaven Fox Stone, and they could directly participate in the finals. Everyone else could only obediently compete. Everyone looked up at the 5 people on the stage. Those 5 people were like 5 mountains weighing down on everyone's hearts, and it would be incredibly difficult to surpass them. However, for the sake of the precious Heaven Fox Stone, everyone wanted to fight over it. They naturally would not give up so easily or else they would not have come to the Heaven Fox banquet. Some people's gazes were resolute, and they believed in their own abilities. The 5 people sitting on the platform looked down at the people below with disdain and contempt. They did not place the people below in their eyes at all. They only cared about the people beside them, and everyone else was trash. There were countless people watching from all around, making it very lively. This was the Fox clan's largest gathering, and countless people would definitely come to join in on the fun. The place was noisy, and everyone was enthusiastically discussing who would get the Heaven Fox stone. For what I see, the Heaven Fox stone is definitely going to be Hussein this time. His power is both powerful and terrifying, and he's also very strange. Who can compete with him this time? I don't think that's the case. I feel that second-ranked Hu Lingling also has a good chance. Her power has greatly increased recently, and she's our Fox clan's #1 beauty. I definitely have to support her. I don't like any of you. The Heaven Fox stone is such a powerful thing, and it should go to someone with character. I like Hu Ho, but I don't like that Hussein. I heard that he has a group of male and female pets and likes to eat human flesh. Only the strong are respected, all right? Without power, what's the point of having character? I'm more supportive of 5th-ranked Hu Meili. My heart melts just looking at her. How are you so sure that one of these 5 people will obtain the Heaven Fox stone? There are so many people below, and there's no hope at all? Ha ha, you're so funny. Look at those people below. How could they possibly obtain the Heaven Fox stone? I think they're just here to join in on the fun. That's right. If it wasn't for the banquet, none of these people would have the right to participate. The Heaven Fox stone will definitely be one of the 5 people on the stage. The people in the surroundings passionately discussed, and the major figures on the viewing platform sat on their chairs and smiled as they looked down. They chatted with each other, and their actions gave off the auras of upper-class figures. They naturally paid attention to the 5 people on the viewing platforms. As for the other people, they did not care about them at all. Zhao Fu took this competition quite seriously. He took his number plate and came to a stage. Zhao Fu's opponent was a skinny and weak-looking young man who only had stage 6 or stage 7 strength. Zhao Fu hid his aura, and no one knew his cultivation. He wore a black cloak, and no one knew what he looked like, and he gave off a mysterious aura. Facing Zhao Fu's gaze, the skinny young man felt as if he was being stared at by an incredibly dangerous creature. His hair stood on end, and his heart felt cold. He instinctively felt quite afraid and did not dare to do anything, and his hands and legs trembled. Zhao Fu did not attack and calmly looked at the young man. Facing Zhao Fu's terrifying and inhuman eyes, the young man could not hold on anymore and cried out in fear, "I surrender!" Everyone sighed and looked down on this skinny young man. He did not even have the courage to attack and directly chose to surrender. Many people even mocked this young man, saying that he was a coward and a coward. Facing these voices, the skinny young man's face became pale and did not seem to hear them. The image of those eyes was still in his mind, and he still felt quite afraid. A judge announced Zhao Fu's victory and gave Zhao Fu the number for the next stage. Zhao Fu went to the next stage and saw an elderly man with white hair waiting for Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu walked up and looked at the elderly man, preparing to deal with him. "I surrender." Facing Zhao Fu's gaze, the elderly man felt immense fear and reacted the same as the skinny young man. Everyone felt quite surprised and felt quite curious toward Zhao Fu. Why did those 2 people not dare to attack and surrender? Was that person really that terrifying? Some people felt that Zhao Fu was quite ordinary and there was nothing special about him. Some people said that Zhao Fu had bribed those 2 people, or else he would not have surrendered without fighting. Some people even said that Zhao Fu was bullying the elderly and children. The judge once again went up and announced Zhao Fu's victory and gave him the number for the next stage. Chapter 1595. Many people looked quite confused and could not understand what was going on. Why did 3 people not dare to attack Zhao Fu? And they were so scared that their legs went soft and they directly surrendered. Some people cried out in dissatisfaction. It was definitely Zhao Fu who had bribed those people to act like that. Some people felt that there was something special about Zhao Fu, and they started to pay more attention to Zhao Fu. Following this, the referee announced Zhao Fu's victory in the next round. Following this, Zhao Fu participated in the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, but no one dared to make a move against Zhao Fu. This was quite shocking. Had Zhao Fu bribed these people, or was that person really that terrifying? More and more people started to pay attention to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu felt quite helpless about this. Firstly, the people he was facing were too weak, and most of them were only at stage 5 or stage 6. On the other hand, Zhao Fu was a Harmony Realm expert, and Zhao Fu's eyes were indeed the most terrifying eyes in the world. Zhao Fu's left eye now had 9 pupils, and his right eye had a cross-shaped pupil with 6 gray dots around it. Not only did it contain the power of 5 Emperor Stars, but it also contained all sorts of other powers. Zhao Fu came to the 7th stage. A beautiful woman with a seductive figure and 5 tails behind her slowly walked up from below the arena. She had a red face and a teary light in her eyes. She had a slightly flirtatious aura and was wearing a red dress. She had a beautiful face and 5 tails behind her. "Sir, as long as you let me serve you for a night, I'll admit defeat." Hearing this, the surroundings were sent into an uproar. No one had thought that such a good thing could happen. The woman in red was very beautiful, yet she had offered to serve someone and even admitted defeat. How could there be such a good thing? However, everyone was now sure that Zhao Fu was a fake and did not have the strength to bribe others to put on an act. At the same time, more and more people were paying attention to Zhao Fu. Hearing the woman's words, Zhao Fu was a bit surprised, but he still agreed with a smile. The woman looked at Zhao Fu charmingly and said, "Then, young lord, I'll be waiting for you. You have to hurry. I can't wait any longer just by smelling your scent." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. The referee came up again and announced Zhao Fu's victory. The 8th match was between an ugly-looking youth. His aura was already very powerful, reaching stage 8 or stage 9. After so many matches, some of the weaker people had long since been eliminated, and the remaining people all had decent strength. Zhao Fu calmly looked at the ugly-looking young man, causing his heart to tighten and his hairs to stand on end. However, he didn't retreat like the people before him, and instead chose to quickly attack. The ugly-looking young man quickly rushed toward Zhao Fu and soon arrived before Zhao Fu. His claw gave off the power to pierce through steel as he grabbed toward Zhao Fu. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as the ugly-looking young man was blasted back by a massive force before he could even react. He fell off the stage and coughed up a large mouthful of blood before fainting. Everyone looked incredibly shocked. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would have such strength. On the stage, Huxia immediately noticed Zhao Fu and gave a trace of a devilish smile as he said, "This person is quite interesting. He'll probably be able to block a few of my attacks." Hearing this, the other 4 people looked at Zhao Fu. The 4th-ranked Huxia said condescendingly, "I don't think he'll be able to block a few of your attacks. If it was me, I'd finish him off with a single punch." Huho sounded quite serious and said, "I feel that this person is quite powerful and can be my opponent. The power that he released with that wave of his hand is quite terrifying and is not that simple. However, I should be able to defeat him." Humeli lightly laughed as she said, "Compared to his strength, I'm more interested in his identity. Even though we're so far away from him, just smelling his aura makes me feel quite moved. This is the first time I've encountered such a thing." Hu Lingling looked quite cold and did not say anything. She glanced at Zhao Fu before looking away. Beside her, Huxia looked at Hu Lingling's figure and smiled as he said to the fox race's #1 beauty, "Hu Lingling, this Heaven Fox Stone will definitely be mine. This time, the Heaven Fox Stone is mine. No one can take it away from me. If you can do it with me once, I'll give you the Heaven Fox Stone." Hu Lingling coldly looked at him and said, "Don't be too confident. It's not certain who will obtain the Heaven Fox Stone. Also, do you believe that I'll cut off your thing and feed it to the dogs?" Huxia loudly laughed as he said provocatively, "Huxia, how about we compete now? I've long since wanted to test your strength, and see if you still have the right to stand at number 1. I've never been happy being number 4. Hu Mei said, right now, the people below are still competing. As the finalists, we can't start fighting right now. Hu Sha arrogantly stood up from his chair and said, how can this bunch of trash compare to us? Why don't we just compete, and whoever wins can take the Heaven Fox Stone and leave? Let's not waste time here. Hu Xia lightly laughed as he said, I agree with this suggestion. Hu thought about it and said, I agree as well. Let's begin. I don't want to keep sitting here. The fair and chubby middle-aged man looked quite troubled. Fighting in advance was breaking the rules, and the martial competition could not continue. After all, since the finals had already been decided, what was the point of the preliminaries? Hu Xia went up and said, Sirs, please wait for a while. After the preliminaries, I'll quickly arrange for the finals. It'll be quick. Hu Sha looked quite displeased as he said, You said it'll be quick? Do you think I'm stupid? Look at how many people there are. I don't want to keep waiting. As he spoke, Hu Sha pushed aside the fair and chubby young man and walked to the center of the stage, next to a stone stele. There was a blood-red stone on top of the stone stele, which was the Heaven Fox Stone. Hu Sha held the Heaven Fox Stone and said arrogantly to the countless people below, You bunch of trash, there's no need to compete anymore. Come at me together. The Heaven Fox Stone belongs to whoever gets it first. After saying this, Hu Sha vigorously threw the Heaven Fox Stone into the sky. The major figures on the viewing platforms did not stop him, and they smiled as they looked at the scene below and said, In the past, we've always relied on stage competitions. This year, our fox race has produced 5 geniuses, while everyone else's strength is too low. I don't think there's any need to waste time competing. Let's have them fight it out. Only then will everyone's true strength be revealed. I'm quite interested in those 5 little fellows' performances. Chapter 1596. After being tossed into the air, the Heaven Fox Stone quickly fell. Countless people's gazes were focused on the falling Heaven Fox Stone, but no one dared to try to snatch it, because it would be useless. They were too weak, and even if they managed to snatch it, they would not be able to keep it. Moreover, they would definitely be surrounded and attacked, so they wanted to wait for the chaos to come and snatch it. That way, they would have a greater chance. That was what ordinary people thought, but Hu Xie and the others were the complete opposite. After all, they had great strength, and seeing the falling Heaven Fox Stone, they exploded out with powerful auras and rushed into the sky, wanting to snatch it. The one closest to it was naturally Hu Sha, as he was the one who had tossed the Heaven Fox Stone into the sky. He rushed into the sky with a pleased smile on his face, and just as he was about to grab the Heaven Fox Stone, a suction force suddenly covered the Heaven Fox Stone and quickly sucked it away. Everyone looked towards where the Heaven Fox Stone was being sucked away and saw a black-cloaked figure grab the Heaven Fox Stone as he coldly said, I wanted to have a good trial. Why did you have to do this? The surrounding people did not understand what Zhao Fu meant, but now that the Heaven Fox Stone was in his hands, countless people rushed over, wanting to snatch it away. Hu Sha looked furious. The Heaven Fox Stone that he was about to obtain had been snatched away by Zhao Fu. He exploded out with a powerful aura as he rushed down from the sky, bringing with him a powerful gust of wind as he roared, You're seeking death. Zhao Fu's expression was calm and did not change at all. Seeing that Hu Sha was about to reach him, he stretched out a hand and lightly cried out, 8 forbidden blood art. Pooh! Zhao Fu's outstretched hand was covered by a blood-red light, and Hu Sha gave off a powerful aura as he rushed down. However, Zhao Fu's hand pierced through his chest, causing a massive sound to ring out. Ark! Hu Sha howled in pain as his body instantly melted, turning into blood and forming an orb of blood that covered Zhao Fu's hand. The orb of blood gave off a faint blood-red light as blood-red runes came out and surrounded the orb of blood 2 meters away. Zhao Fu tightly gripped his blood-red hand before slowly pulling it out. A blood-red sword was also pulled out by Zhao Fu, and the runes in the surroundings flowed into the blood-red sword, causing it to give off a terrifying and dangerous aura. All of this had happened too quickly, and no one had expected that the powerful Hu Sha would be insta-killed by Zhao Fu in a single move. Everyone else was unable to react in time and continued onwards. Facing the incoming people, Zhao Fu held the blood-red sword and vigorously slashed out, and a massive blood-red crescent moon flew out, slashing everyone in the surrounding 100 meters in half, dyeing the ground red. The people who had been rushing forward stopped abruptly. They looked at the black-cloaked figure standing in the middle of the pile of dismembered corpses like the Grim Reaper. Zhao Fu, Zhao Chen's person, Zhao Dragon, and Yi, and the corpse and he killed. Zhao, and Fox the Saint. And they thought. To Zhao and Stone. Just who was this person, and how did he have such terrifying power? Seeing how Zhao Fu had insta-killed Hu Sha, the four of them were certain that they would be crushed by Zhao Fu. What? You're not going to continue? This Heaven Fox Stone belongs to whoever gets it first, Zhao Fu said coldly as he held the blood-red sword in one hand and took out the Heaven Fox Stone in the other. The people in the surroundings looked terrified, and sensing the aura that Zhao Fu gave off, their bodies instinctively trembled. They finally understood why those people had not dared to attack Zhao Fu and directly admitted defeat. "I'll kill you." A roar sounded out from the viewing platforms as a bearded middle-aged man exploded out with a ferocious aura and furiously charged at Zhao Fu. He was Hu Sha's father, Hu Li, and he had great Earth Realm strength. The surrounding people felt the ferocious power and retreated in fright. As for Zhao Fu, he stood there and looked at the incoming Hu Li Xing. Zhao Fu raised the blood-red sword in his hand and slashed down, sending out a massive blood-red sword light with immense power. Bang! Hu Li was sent flying by the blood-red sword light and heavily slammed against the wall of the viewing platforms, causing a large crater to appear in the wall. The expressions of the people on the viewing platforms fell as they exploded out with powerful auras and looked at Zhao Fu seriously. Hu Li's strength was about the same as theirs, but he had been easily defeated by a single sword strike. This proved that Zhao Fu could also defeat them, and it would be extremely simple. As such, everyone felt quite startled and their expressions fell. Now, everyone understood that Zhao Fu was not someone from the fox race. The purple-haired elder in the lead said seriously, "Who are you? Why have you come to steal our Heaven Fox Stone and massacred our people?" Zhao Fu was the only outsider here, and everyone else was from the fox race. Moreover, there were countless experts and a large number of fox race soldiers gathered here. In terms of numbers, the fox race had an absolute advantage. Hearing the elder's words, Zhao Fu put away the Heaven Fox Stone and said coldly, "The Heaven Fox Stone belongs to whoever snatches it. Since I snatched it, it's naturally mine. Also, I just killed a group of trash from the fox race. Do you have any objections?" The purple-haired elder angrily called out, "This is the fox race's world. Don't go too far, or else you'll die a horrible death." Bang! Right after the elder spoke, Zhao Fu's body charged forwards, turning into a few traces of blood-red wind and dissipating. In the next second, he appeared in front of the elder, and his blood-red sword pierced through the elder's chest. Moreover, Zhao Fu's momentum slammed the elder into a wall, and the sword pierced through the wall, nailing the elder to the wall. By now, Zhao Fu was facing the elder, and he gave a cold smile as he said, "So what if I go too far?" The elder's chest had been pierced by the sword, and blood leaked out of his mouth. He furiously glared at Zhao Fu and gathered a wave of power in his hand as he raised it, preparing to attack Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu snickered and lightly cried out, "Blood devour!" The blood-red sword pierced through the elder's chest and nailed him to the wall, and a large amount of blood-red aura flowed into the elder's chest. The elder looked incredibly pained as he howled, and his body quickly withered and became a desiccated corpse. Zhao Fu casually pulled out the blood-red sword from the elder's corpse, and everyone in the surroundings retreated in fear. That elder was the most powerful person in the fox race's older generation, but he had still been killed by a single strike from Zhao Fu. "Grandpa!" Hu Xiak cried out in pain because the person Zhao Fu had killed was his grandpa, who he loved the most. Zhao Fu slightly turned his head and looked at Hussein. He opened his left eye, and a golden pupil quickly spun. Clang, clang, clang. Chapter 1597. Blood flew everywhere, and before Hussein could even cry out, his body was pierced by chains. His body was like a sieve, and there was not a single part of his body that was intact. The fox race's #1 genius had fallen just like that. Kill! Seeing that their lord had been killed, the countless soldiers looked furious and roared as they gave off terrifying auras and charged at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu turned and gave a cruel smile as he turned into a blood-red ray of light and shot into the incoming soldiers. The blood-red sword in his hand turned into a blood-red ribbon that was 10 or so meters long, and he vigorously slashed out. The blood-red ribbon was extremely gentle and quickly slashed out. Chi, chi, chi. The countless soldiers around Zhao Fu were cut in half, and their corpses slowly fell to the ground. Their organs fell and blood flew everywhere, but they were controlled by a formless energy and floated in the air, looking quite strange. At that moment, Zhao Fu gave a cruel smile and stretched out a hand and grabbed out. Bang, bang, bang. Countless drops of blood turned into fingernail-sized blood droplets that shot out with immense power and entered the soldiers' bodies. Blood spurted everywhere, and pained cries continuously sounded out. Countless soldiers' bodies were covered with bullet holes, making for a tragic scene. In just an instant, Zhao Fu had killed over 50,000 people, and the ground was covered with corpses and blood. The surrounding soldiers all looked slightly terrified and did not dare to recklessly charge up. The major figures in the surroundings also looked at Zhao Fu in fear and did not dare to do anything. The power that Zhao Fu had displayed was simply too terrifying. Kill! A roar sounded out. It was the middle-aged man who had been sent flying, Husha's father. His faction's soldiers received the order and gave off massive auras as they charged at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu gave a trace of an evil smile. These people charging at him was exactly what Zhao Fu wanted. After all, Zhao Fu had not killed enough yet. The blood-red ribbon in his hand continuously shrank back into the blood-red sword, and Zhao Fu gave off a massive aura as he ferociously charged at the soldier. This was the first time Zhao Fu had used the 8 forbidden blood arts power. Even though he hadn't fused with any powerful bloodlines, he could already unleash terrifying power. This was not just a fusion of bloodlines, but also a killing technique. Puff, puff, puff. Zhao Fu slashed out with his sword, and a blood-red sword light slashed into the soldiers' bodies, causing blood to spurt out. Zhao Fu spun around, and the soldiers charging at him were instantly chopped into pieces. This wasn't a battle at all, but a one-sided massacre. Zhao Fu kept swinging his sword, and the charging soldiers were cut down like grass. Fresh blood dyed the ground red. There were corpses everywhere, and most of them were dismembered. They had died in great pain, and a thick stench of blood wafted through the air. The scene was terrifying. Boom! Husha's father, Hu Li, exploded out with the power of a nation armament, and a terrifying aura flooded out, bringing with it a wild gale. Bringing with it a massive aura, Fox Force rushed toward Zhao Fu like a ferocious beast. The sound it gave off shook the surroundings, causing the heavens and earth to dim. Pan! Billy gave off a terrifying aura as he rushed in front of Zhao Fu. Before he could attack, Zhao Fu condescendingly stretched out a hand and grabbed his head, causing a clear sound to ring out. Following this, Zhao Fu coldly cried out, "Blood Zong." Hu Li's expression was one of pain as he gave off an incredibly pained howl. His body instantly turned into a pool of blood, which formed an orb of blood. It gave off a suction force, and the blood on the ground turned into pillars of blood that entered the orb of blood. The orb of blood became larger and larger before flying into the sky and exploding out with a massive suction force. The soldiers on the ground were sucked into the sky like ants, and they stuck to the orb of blood without being able to resist at all. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers were sucked into the sky, forming an orb of countless soldiers. This orb of blood was naturally massive, and some of the soldiers had died from the massive suction force. Their bodies were twisted beyond human shape, while others struggled on the orb of blood. Others howled, cried, and wailed. Zhao Fu raised a hand towards the massive orb and vigorously gripped it. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the gigantic ball exploded in the sky. Countless amounts of blood and fragments flew everywhere, and a rain of blood fell from the sky. The ground, the houses, the walls, and everything else were dyed red. It was like a scene from hell. The surroundings fell into a deathly silence, and countless people looked at Zhao Fu in terror. Their bodies continuously trembled. In their eyes, Zhao Fu was like a god of death. Some of the experts released their nation armaments, while others exploded out with their cultivation power. Soldiers continuously gathered. Zhao Fu stood at the center of the battlefield and looked around before looking at the fox race's experts. He said coldly to them, "Do you have any objections?" The fox race's experts' expressions were quite serious. They had personally witnessed the carnage that Zhao Fu had caused, and they understood how terrifying Zhao Fu was. If they rushed up, it was possible that they would die at Zhao Fu's hands. Facing such a powerful person, they could only use an ocean of soldiers to defend. There were still soldiers continuously arriving, but they felt that it was not enough. Moreover, even if there were enough soldiers, was it really necessary to pay such a massive price to kill Zhao Fu? Moreover, with Zhao Fu's power, even if they could stop Zhao Fu, they would not be able to stop Zhao Fu. Facing Zhao Fu's words, the experts looked at each other, and a dignified-looking middle-aged man said, "You can take the Heaven Fox Stone. We don't have any objections, but please quickly leave." Zhao Fu had killed so many people, and a grand meeting had turned into a battlefield of slaughter. If news of this spread, the fox race's experts felt that they had lost a lot of face. However, they feared Zhao Fu's power, so they did not dare to act. Hearing this, Zhao Fu lightly harumphed and waved his hand, causing 3 chains to shoot out and bind up 3 women. He then turned into a ray of light and shot over the horizon. There were more and more soldiers here, and even though Zhao Fu had his nation armament, he had to quickly leave, or else it would be very dangerous. The power of billions of soldiers was incredibly terrifying, and it was possible that even Zhao Fu would not be able to stop them. The 3 people who were taken away were the red-clothed, enchanting woman called Hu Mei, Hu Lingling, the fox race's #1 beauty, and Hu Meili, the 5th-ranked beauty. Because Zhao Fu had suddenly acted, the fox race's experts had not been able to react in time. Even if they had reacted, they would have hesitated, as another intense battle would have erupted. Chapter 1598. The fox race's world was sent into an uproar. The fox race's grand meeting had turned into a land of slaughter. The most powerful experts of the older generation and younger generation had died, and no one dared to stop them. According to those who had returned, this was the most terrifying thing they had ever experienced in their lives. The world seemed to be dyed with blood, and there were mutilated corpses everywhere. Mournful cries resounded in their minds for a long time, and despair and terror of death spread everywhere. The fox race was quite curious about this person. Just what kind of person was he to have such terrifying power? It seemed that the surrounding worlds had never heard of this person before. The luckiest person was Hu Ho, the honest-looking young man. Of the fox race's 5 geniuses, the first-ranked Hu Xie had been killed, the second-ranked Hu Lingling had been taken away, the 4th-ranked Hu Sha had been killed, and the 5th-ranked Hu Meili had been taken away. Now, there was no one to fight with him for the first-ranked position, and he was the fox race's only genius. News of what had happened in the fox race's world spread to the surrounding worlds, and the surrounding worlds became wary, hoping that this terrifying person would not come to their world. Zhao Fu brought the 3 women to a mountain cave and left restrictions in their bodies before releasing the chains binding them. The 3 women were all quite afraid of Zhao Fu because they had personally seen how terrifying Zhao Fu was and how bloodthirsty and cruel he was. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "Don't worry, I won't harm you." Of course, you have to submit to me. Seeing how gentle Zhao Fu was and how cold he was before, Hu Mei felt at ease and leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace as she said, "Sir, I've always been yours. You can do whatever you want of me. Also, let's hurry up and start. I've been waiting for so long." Zhao Fu looked at the lewd Hu Mei in his embrace and pressed her beneath him as he started to do it with her. Hu Lingling and Hu Mei's faces became red as they watched Zhao Fu and Hu Mei do such shameless things in front of them. After a while, Hu Mei's breathing became ragged as she turned to look at Hu Lingling and said, "We'll be his women sooner or later, so why don't we take the initiative to please him? I'm going over." Hu Lingling shook his head firmly and said, "I won't submit to him like this. My man must be an indomitable hero, not a bloodthirsty, overbearing, and woman-snatching villain." Hu Mei did not say anything else as she looked at the two of them. She had originally been moved by the aura on Zhao Fu's body, and seeing how much Hu Mei was enjoying herself, she could not help but join in. In the end, Hu Lingling was pressed to the ground and violated by Zhao Fu. Moreover, she did not look as cold and elegant as before, and was just as licentious. Afterwards, Zhao Fu hugged the three women from the fox race and smiled. The women from the fox race gave off a bewitching charm, making people unable to help but lose themselves in it. Hu Mei happily smiled as she lay in Zhao Fu's embrace and said, "Husband, I'm very happy. You're really amazing. I can't leave you in the future." Hu Mei also flirtatiously nodded in agreement. Hu Lingling's face became red, and she did not say anything as she lay in Zhao Fu's embrace. She felt that she was too licentious and that this was not something she should be. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and said, "I'll let you go later. Say goodbye to your families and then leave with me." Hu Lingling and Hu Mei looked quite delighted. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would let them go. Before, they had been captured by Zhao Fu, and they had already made up their minds to never go back. They felt quite reluctant to part with their families. However, contrary to their expectations, Zhao Fu was telling them to go back. Was he not afraid that they would run away and never come back? The two women sensed their bodies and understood the reason. Their bodies were now covered with Zhao Fu's restrictions, and Zhao Fu could control them as he pleased. Moreover, Zhao Fu had just conquered them, causing them to feel a trace of dependence towards him. The two women sighed. It seemed that they would never be able to escape from Zhao Fu. However, they did not feel angry and instead felt quite happy. Following this, the two women left, and Hu Mei stayed behind with Zhao Fu. She did not have any relatives, so she did not need to say goodbye. She just wanted to stay by Zhao Fu's side and receive Zhao Fu's love at any time. After they left, Zhao Fu took out the Heaven Fox Stone and started to fuse it into his body. The Heaven Fox Stone floated in front of Zhao Fu's body and gave off an intense blood-red light as it turned into a small fox that was as big as a palm and had 9 tails. The small fox did not resist, and it instead excitedly burrowed into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu guessed that it was because of Tamamo no Mai, Su Da Fei, and the others. They were all pure-blooded 9-tailed foxes, which was why the small fox had fallen in love with Zhao Fu. After the small fox burrowed into Zhao Fu's body, Zhao Fu exploded out with a powerful aura, and his body gave off an intense blood-red light. The small fox turned into a powerful blood-red energy that spread throughout Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu wholeheartedly absorbed and refined this energy, making it a part of himself. In the end, Zhao Fu completely refined this energy, and he once again felt a pain on his back as a 9-tailed fox totem appeared on Zhao Fu's back. After sensing the various powers in his body, Zhao Fu gave a pleased smile. Following this, Hu Lingling and Hu Mei returned with smiles on their faces. After saying goodbye to his family, Zhao Fu went to the place he had agreed to meet with Hu Shan. At the bottom of a low hill, there was a massive and exquisite carriage. The women had been waiting for a long time, and seeing Zhao Fu return, they all smiled and pulled Zhao Fu into the carriage. Within the carriage, countless sounds could be heard. Now that the merchant group's mission had been concluded, Zhao Fu decided to head to Outlander 10 College. so he ordered the three-headed demon wolf to head there. Because the three-headed demon wolf was incredibly intelligent, there was no need for a coachman. Zhao Fu and the women could enjoy themselves as much as they wanted in the carriage. 5 days later, Zhao Fu and his group left the outer domains and came to the inner domains. The people here were much more powerful than those in the outer domains, and the most powerful people had Emperor Heaven Realm cultivation. As such, Zhao Fu could not act as unbridled as before. After being nourished by Zhao Fu for a few days, and with the effects of the beauty spring, the women were all incredibly beautiful and gave off bewitching auras. By now, they had come to a small kingdom in the inner regions of the ancient stem domain. It was a Naga kingdom, and the people here had the upper bodies of humans and the lower bodies of snakes. They relied on their lower bodies to move, and they were quite fast but found it difficult to turn. Chapter 1599. There were Nagas walking on the streets and doing business. Other Nagas laughed and chatted with each other, and some Nagas sat in restaurants on the side of the streets. However, the architectural style and carvings were all related to snakes, and there were traces of snakes everywhere. At that moment, the streets became quite lively as many people gathered. Zhao Fu felt quite curious, so he got off the carriage and followed them, wanting to see what was going on. He found a Naga woman with a mature figure and a beautiful face wearing red armor. She held a spear and gave off a valiant aura, and she led a group of Naga soldiers to the side, escorting some Nagas. Zhao Fu asked the Naga next to him, "What's going on?" The Naga ignored Zhao Fu because he could tell that Zhao Fu was not a Naga. However, after Zhao Fu threw over a bag of coins, the Naga smiled and explained to Zhao Fu. It turned out that the red-armored woman was one of the Naga Kingdom's princesses, and she was escorting a group of Naga criminals. These Nagas had committed grave crimes, and they were going to be sacrificed to their kingdom's Naga god. Their kingdom's Naga god was the Naga Kingdom's guardian god and had great power. There were 2 of them, 1 male and 1 female. Even though they protected the Naga Kingdom, they were incredibly savage and liked to eat people. Every month, they would eat 800 people. 800 people every month was not a big deal to a kingdom. The Naga Kingdom's royal family would send people every month, and out of respect for the Naga god, they would be led by a beautiful Naga princess. Hearing about the Naga god, Zhao Fu immediately felt quite interested. After thinking about it, he followed the group to a large mountain. This mountain was extremely tall, and it was the tallest of all the mountains. It seemed to look down on all the other mountains, and there was a large cave in front of the mountain that was 100 meters tall and dozens of meters wide. There were a few ferocious snakes carved into the walls of the cave. The inside of the cave was pitch black, and nothing could be seen. There were traces of cold air coming out of the cave, carrying a fishy smell. After coming to the large cave, the Naga princess ordered people to tie the Nagas to the pillars before telling the soldiers to leave. She then came to the entrance of the cave and called out, "Esteemed Lord Naga God, we've prepared food for you. Please come out and enjoy." There was a rustling sound in the cave, and 2 Nagas appeared in front of everyone. One of the Nagas had the upper body of a muscular man and the lower body of a silver snake. The other was a beautiful woman with a silver snake tail. Both of them gave off powerful, godly spirit auras. Seeing the princess, the male Naga god smiled and said, "Daughter, you're here again." The princess smiled as she said, "Father, it's not a big deal. It's time for you to offer sacrifices again, so I naturally have to come. This time, I'll help you pick out quite a few strong Nagas for you to eat." Hearing the Naga god call the princess his daughter and the princess call the Naga god father, the Naga people tied to the pillars looked quite confused. After all, they knew that this princess was the queen's daughter and was most likely the Naga king's daughter. Why would she call the Naga god her daughter? They could not help but think of a rumor, which was that the queen and the Naga god had an unspeakable relationship. The queen had only become the queen because of the Naga god's help, and they had never thought that this rumor was true. The Naga Kingdom's queen actually had such a relationship with the Naga god. This was a shocking matter that no one in the kingdom knew about. Now that they knew this massive secret, they would definitely die. This was indeed the case, as they were going to be used by the Naga god to eat. As such, the Naga god and the princess did not care about them. Some of the Nagas started to beg for mercy, wanting the Naga god to spare them. They promised to behave themselves in the future and not leak this information. Some of the Nagas understood that it was impossible for them to live, so they started to curse, saying that the Naga god was a beast for doing such a despicable thing with the queen. They had always respected the Naga god and the queen, but they had never thought that they would be so despicable. The female Naga god's beautiful eyes looked quite resentful as she turned into a massive silver snake that was hundreds of meters long. She opened her mouth and bit at the Nagas, devouring 20 or so Nagas in one bite. Countless Nagas looked terrified and continuously begged for mercy. In the end, the 800 or so Nagas were all eaten by the female Naga god, leaving behind only traces of blood and some broken limbs. After eating these people, the female Naga god returned to her lazy half-human, half-snake state. She wiped away the blood at her mouth and angrily returned to the cave. The male Naga god helplessly smiled and knew why the female Naga god was angry. At that moment, the princess smiled and said in a coquettish tone, "Father, you haven't visited Mother in a long time. You haven't visited your mother for a long time, and she misses you a lot recently. Can you accompany your daughter and visit her now? Please, Father." The male Naga god was unable to refuse the princess' request, so he left with her. After they left, a figure walked out from the side. It was Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu had never thought that such a thing would happen. The two Naga gods had world realm strength, and the male Naga god was slightly stronger, having reached the peak of the world realm. The Naga kingdom had hundreds of millions of stage 3 soldiers and had a nation armament, so they were not easy to deal with. As such, they had to be careful, which was why Zhao Fu had not forcefully descended and attacked. After looking at the male Naga god and the princess leave, Zhao Fu turned to look at the cave. He took off his cloak and smiled as he walked in. The inside of the cave was quite different to what Zhao Fu had expected. There were lamps on the walls, and the ground was paved with stone bricks. Zhao Fu walked along the walkway and came to a very large and luxurious room. There was all sorts of furniture made from precious materials, and there were exquisite murals on the walls. There was also a massive illuminating gem at the top. There was a large bed at the center, and there was a lazy female Naga god lying on the bed. She rested her head on one hand and gave a trace of smile as her beautiful eyes fell on Zhao Fu's body, and she said in a lazy and alluring voice, "Sir," she said in a lazy and alluring voice, "Sir, why have you come here?" From a moment that Zhao Fu had appeared at the entrance of the cave and given off his aura, the female Naga god had already discovered Zhao Fu. Looking at Zhao Fu's incredibly handsome face, extraordinary aura, and alluring aura, the female Naga god could not help but fall into a daze. Chapter 1600. Zhao Fu smiled as he walked to the side and sat on the bed. He understood what the female Naga god meant, and he lifted her face as he said, "Naga god, you're so beautiful, and I couldn't help but want to see you." The female Naga god gave a flirtatious smile as she said, "Is that so? Even though your cultivation is quite low, from your aura, you're not an ordinary person, right? This god can give you a chance, but you have to serve this god well, or this god will eat you." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "Of course I'll satisfy you." Following this, Zhao Fu pressed down on the Naga god, following which something indescribable happened. The female Naga god had never thought that she would be so happy. She was hundreds of times more powerful than her husband, the male Naga god. Soon, she sank into it and became incredibly lewd. Elsewhere, the male Naga god and the princess had snuck into the palace and lightly knocked on the door of a hidden room. Two Naga female attendants opened the door. The male Naga god and the princess smiled as they walked in. There was a beautiful Naga woman with a mature figure and a pair of deep eyes, and it was clear that she was very ambitious. She was the Naga kingdom's queen, and she was called Snake Xiao Xiao. "Husband." Xiao Xiao smiled as she leapt into the male Naga god's embrace and hugged his thick waist as she affectionately called out, The male Naga god hugged Shi Xiao Xiao and smiled as he asked, "Did you miss me?" Shi Xiao Xiao's face became red as she softly replied, "Of course I did. You're my husband. How could I not miss you? Also, why haven't you come to see me in so long?" The male Naga god apologetically explained, "It's because I'm afraid that your king husband will notice. If he finds out about us, neither of us will have a good time, so we need to restrain ourselves." Shi Xiao Xiao said dissatisfiedly, "I can't take it if it's always like this. I just want to stay by your side. Can you bear to keep us in this palace and keep us in fear? Perhaps we'll be beheaded one day." The male serpent deity said with a troubled expression, "I don't want this to happen either, but I don't have any way to resolve this matter." Hearing this, Shi Xiao Xiao gave a trace of a sinister smile. She had achieved her goal and said, "I've already planned to rebel, so you must support us, husband. With your support, our chances of success will be much greater. When that time comes, I'll be the queen of the Naga kingdom, and our relationship can be made public. That way, we'll be able to be together every day and won't have to hide." The male Naga god looked quite hesitant, and Shi Xiao Xiao gave a flirtatious smile as she kissed the male Naga god and said softly, "Is that all right, husband?" In the end, the male Naga deity agreed after some consideration. Shi Xiao Xiao looked quite happy as she said, "Thank you, husband. I don't care if husband misses my body. I'll serve husband now." The Naga princess, Shimi, smiled. She felt that it was not good to continue staying here, so she turned to leave. Boom! A terrifying power suddenly blasted against the room, causing it to seem to explode. Countless pieces of stone and wood flew out as a skinny middle-aged Naga, giving off a massive aura, appeared above the room. When he saw the two people hugging each other, he felt incredibly furious because he was the king of the Naga kingdom and Shi Xiao Xiao was his empress. She was currently intimately in the male Naga god's embrace, and her face was red and her clothes were quite disheveled. If he had not arrived in time, this pair of adulterers would have already done it. Thinking about that, the Naga king became even more furious. He had trusted Shi Xiao Xiao this entire time. Shi Xiao Xiao's face became pale, and she felt incredibly powerless. She had never thought that before the plan had even started, the matter would be exposed like this. Now, everything was over, and she wanted to go up and explain to see if there was any way to salvage the situation. However, the Naga king hated Shi Xiao Xiao to the extreme, and he raised his hand and sent out a terrifying power toward Shi Xiao Xiao. He was determined to kill her. Shi Xiao Xiao looked terrified. She did not have the ability to defend at all. At that moment, the male Naga god acted and blocked the Naga king's attack. "All of you can die together." The Naga king furiously roared and exploded out with his nation armament's power, causing the heavens and earth to dim. A divine realm power also exploded out, shaking the surroundings. Sensing these abnormalities, countless people started to gather. The male Naga god's expression fell, and he hurriedly said to Shi Xiao Xiao and Shi Mi, "Hurry and leave. I'll stop them." Shi Xiao Xiao and Shi Mi came back to their senses and quickly ran to the side. The male Naga god also exploded out with terrifying ripples, and his terrifying aura flooded out, causing abnormal signs to appear in the heavens and earth. This was the power of someone at the peak of the world realm, and he was just a bit away from breaking through to the divine realm. The Naga king gripped his fists and gave off massive power as he turned into a ray of light and shot towards the male Naga god. The male Naga god also gave off terrifying power as he rushed towards the Naga king and vigorously punched out. Bang! The two fists collided with terrifying power, resulting in an incredibly destructive aura that blasted out. The ground cracked and collapsed, and the entire room was destroyed. Countless rocks and wood flew everywhere as dust and smoke filled the air. The male Naga god was incredibly powerful and was able to force the Naga king back a few steps while he was only forced back a single step. The Naga king's cultivation was too low, and his battle experience and power were weaker than the male Naga god's. As such, even though he had divine realm cultivation, he was at a slight disadvantage. Ark! The Naga King furiously roared and once again exploded out with even greater power as he attacked the male Naga god. The male Naga god's expression was serious as he went up to meet the Naga King, and the two of them continuously attacked each other. Boom! 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 Explosions continuously sounded out as the two of them continuously fought. Terrifying shock waves rippled out, causing the weather to change. Under this power, countless people's hair stood on end as they looked towards the palace. Bang! The Naga King used his nation armament's power to punch the male Naga god to the ground, opening up a large crater, and the shock wave turned into a wild gale. Within the crater, the male Naga god coughed up a large mouthful of blood. At that moment, the Naga King looked at Shi Xiao Xiao and Shi Mi, who had escaped far away, and coldly said to the soldiers who had rushed over, "Kill those two sluts." Even though the soldiers did not know what had happened, they obeyed the Naga King and charged towards Shi Xiao Xiao and Shi Mi Boom. A terrifying power once again exploded out as the male Naga god's body erupted with a silver aura flame. He turned into a ray of light and rushed to Shi Xiao Xiao and Shi Mi's side, hugged them with each arm, and quickly escaped. Chapter 1601. The male Naga god hugged the two women and quickly rushed towards his cave. He could not stay in the Naga kingdom any longer, so he wanted to take his other wife, the female Naga god, and leave this place, or else they would all die here. With their world realm strength, there was no kingdom that would not welcome them. When the time came, they could become godly spirits and receive massive amounts of faith energy. The male Naga god had deep feelings for his wife because they had lived together for many years. He deeply loved his wife, but he could not let go of Shi Xiao Xiao. He also loved her greatly, or else he would not have helped her rebel. Moreover, they had the fruit of their happiness, which was Shi Mi, their daughter. Now, the male Naga god felt quite regretful. He knew that the Naga King had sensed something, but he could not resist going to see Shi Xiao Xiao. His peaceful days had been quite good, but now all of that was gone. What made the Naga god feel quite strange was that as a married, godly spirit, he could sense that if he was in danger, his wife would know. However, there was no reaction at all, and the male Naga god felt quite worried about his wife's safety. He quickly flew and returned to his cave. At the cave entrance, the male Naga god sensed a trace of another aura, which was incredibly dangerous. The male Naga god felt quite startled and quickly brought Shi Xiao Xiao and Shi Mi into the cave. The male Naga god looked at this scene in disbelief before coughing up a large mouthful of blood. He had already been injured, and now that he had been so angry, he had suffered internal injuries. Shi Xiao Xiao and Shi Mi had never thought that they would see such a scene. However, seeing how powerful the handsome young man was, they could not help but feel quite moved. Their faces became red, and their breathing became ragged, and they wanted to take the female Naga god's place. The male Naga god looked at this scene in disbelief before coughing up a large mouthful of blood. He had already been injured, and now that he had become so angry, he had suffered internal injuries. "I'll kill you!" The male Naga god furiously roared and exploded out with a powerful aura as he punched toward Zhao Fu, sending out a terrifying fist energy. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed and took out the emperor-killing sword and exploded out with its nation armament's power. He vigorously slashed out, and a black sword light flew out. It was incredibly sharp and easily destroyed the fist energy. The sword light sent the male Naga god flying back, and he crashed into a wall and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Zhao Fu could use his nation armament's power in this attack, and she now had 7 worlds. The power of the 7 worlds added together greatly surpassed that of the male Naga god, and he was able to easily heavily injure the male Naga god. Seeing the heavily injured male Naga god, Zhao Fu naturally would not let him off. He grasped this opportunity and stabbed out with his sword, causing a sword light to flash out and pierce into the male Naga god's throat. The male Naga god instantly died and powerlessly fell to the ground. Seeing the dead male Naga god, the female Naga god's eyes became filled with tears, and she angrily pounded Zhao Fu's chest with her fists as she said, "You bastard! Why did you kill my husband?" Zhao Fu brought her into his embrace and said domineeringly, "You're my woman now, not his wife." The female Naga god lightly harumphed. "I know. However, he was my former husband, and I feel terrible that you killed him like this." Zhao Fu put away the emperor-killing sword and lifted the female Naga god's chin as he lightly smiled and said, "You won't feel terrible in a bit." The female Naga god understood what Zhao Fu meant, and her face became red as she coyly glared at Zhao Fu. She lightly hugged Zhao Fu because she was in Zhao Fu's embrace. Zhao Fu's gaze fell on Shi Xiao and Shimi's bodies. After thinking about it, he realized their identities. Shimi looked somewhat like Shi Xiao, and Shimi was the daughter of the male Naga god, so Shi Xiao was naturally the queen. Seeing that her father had been killed, Shimi looked at Zhao Fu hatefully. Her father had treated her incredibly well, and she greatly liked him, which was why she hated Zhao Fu so much. Shi Xiao felt quite shocked. The male Naga god had been so powerful, yet he had been killed by Zhao Fu so easily. Now, they were in danger, as Zhao Fu could kill them at any moment. Even if Zhao Fu did not kill them, they would not be able to escape the Naga Kingdom. If they were caught by the Naga King, their fates would be even worse. The skin on their upper bodies would be peeled off, and the scales on their lower bodies would be ripped off. This was the Naga Kingdom's torture, and she knew how painful it was. Shi Xiao did not hesitate and flirtatiously smiled as she pulled her daughter, Shimi, over to Zhao Fu and said in a coquettish voice, "Sir, let us serve you together. Let us mother and daughter serve you together." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded, and Shi Xiao and Shimi started to serve Zhao Fu. The female Naga god also gave a trace of a smile. She did not like Shi Xiao, the woman who had seduced her ex-husband, nor did she like her ex-husband and her child. However, seeing them act so shamelessly, she felt quite happy. Zhao Fu enjoyed being served by this pair of mother and daughter, and he wanted to have a good taste of them. However, he sensed a great commotion and understood that many soldiers were rushing over. Zhao Fu did not hesitate to bring the women and put away the male Naga god's corpse before quickly leaving. He returned to his carriage and had his people leave the Naga Kingdom. Apart from the Naga Kingdom, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. He knew what had happened, but he did not care too much. After finding a place where there was no one around, Zhao Fu took out the male Naga god's corpse and thought about it before starting to devour it. Countless traces of black aura flowed out from Zhao Fu's palm and covered the male Naga god's corpse. Powerful energy continuously corroded the Naga god's corpse, and the Naga god's body started to fuse as its limbs gradually disappeared. In the end, it formed a ball of silver liquid that floated in the air and gave off a faint silver light and a powerful godly spirit aura. Zhao Fu opened his mouth and sucked the ball of silver liquid into his mouth before continuing to refine the silver liquid. The silver liquid continuously separated and fused into various parts of Zhao Fu's body, causing Zhao Fu to feel an icy coldness. After absorbing all of the silver liquid, Zhao Fu once again felt a pain on his back as a silver Naga totem appeared on Zhao Fu's back. Zhao Fu knew that refining the male Naga god's corpse would definitely give him a Naga totem. After all, the male Naga god was a Naga godly spirit and had powerful Naga godly spirit power, which fulfilled the requirements for a Naga totem. Chapter 1602. Everyone continued onwards and came near a lake. The water was clear and wide, and it was like a mirror that reflected the blue sky and white clouds. There was also lush green grass by the side of the lake, creating a beautiful scene. Because they often did indescribable things on carriages, their bodies were quite dirty and sticky, and they wanted to wash up here. Zhao Fu nodded and agreed. After tasting Shi Xiao and her mother, he wanted to wash up. Even though Nagas had the lower half of their bodies as snakes, they could turn into women's bodies. Most other Outlanders had this ability, and the mermaids from before could do this as well. Everyone took off their clothes and started to wash up in the water. Zhao Fu was quite fast, and he came up after a simple wash. However, the women were quite slow, and some even started to play in the water. Zhao Fu looked at the women's beautiful bodies under the blue sky and white clouds. At that moment, Zhao Fu suddenly sensed something and called for the women to put on their clothes. A group of half-man, half-horse creatures appeared in front of everyone. This group of half-man, half-horse creatures had the upper bodies of humans and Western faces, and the lower bodies of horses. They had 4 hooves and a ponytail. They were the centaurs of the Outlanders, and they were natural-born knights. The leader of this group of centaurs was a golden-haired, blue-eyed, and incredibly handsome-looking centaur. There were hundreds of centaur soldiers behind him, and they all had stage for cultivation. They were most likely his personal guards, and the centaur in the lead did not seem simple at all. The centaur young man looked at the women who had just come out of the water. Their wet hair, beautiful faces, white skin, and bewitching figures made his eyes light up, and his heart rate sped up. What was most surprising was that there were all sorts of races here: orcs, lizardmen, nagas, foxes, minotaurs, and others. With so many different races, if he could have all of them in his harem, that would be an incredibly shocking achievement for any man. Thinking about that, the golden-haired young man went up and said with a trace of arrogance, "You've all bathed in our holy lake and have tarnished our holy lake. As the prince of the centaurs, I have the right to declare that you're all my slaves." The women all lightly laughed and looked at Zhao Fu, and the serpent god flirtatiously smiled as she said, "Husband, it's not a big deal. Did you hear that? He wants to treat us as his slaves. What do you think we should do?" The centaur prince felt quite displeased because the people in front of him did not place him in their eyes at all. He looked at the only man present, Zhao Fu, and said, "Did you hear this prince's words? If you continue to act like this, don't blame me for being impolite." Boom! A massive aura spread out, causing the atmosphere to become quite oppressive. A cold-looking middle-aged centaur next to the centaur prince looked at everyone with a sharp gaze, giving off an oppressive aura. This aura belonged to a divine realm expert. The other stage 4 soldiers also exploded out with powerful auras as they locked onto Zhao Fu and the others, preparing to act at any moment. The Centaur Kingdom was already quite powerful and was a royal kingdom-level faction. They knew how strong Zhao Fu's side was, and the strongest was only the world realm serpent god, so they were confident that they could take them down. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "We won't submit, so what are you going to do about it?" The centaur prince angrily harumphed, "You're seeking death. However, I'll properly enjoy your women. They've all entered such exquisite realms, and even I don't have so many good women by my side. Men, kill the men and take away the women." The soldiers obeyed and gave off massive auras as they charged at Zhao Fu and the others. The cold-looking centaur man directly attacked the serpent god because the serpent god was the most powerful person here. The centaur king charged at Zhao Fu. He wanted to personally cut off Zhao Fu's head to vent his anger. The centaur prince had thought that things would be resolved quickly and that he would easily cut off Zhao Fu's head and take Zhao Fu's women back to enjoy them. However, what happened next was completely different from what he had expected. Zhao Fu exploded out with even more terrifying power. This power was terrifying to the extreme, and it caused the weather to change. Countless people felt as if they had fallen into icy water, and their bodies uncontrollably trembled. "Ark!" A pained cry sounded out as the cold-looking centaur man, who had rushed over to attack the serpent god, was cut in half by Zhao Fu's sword. Blood and organs fell to the ground, looking quite disgusting. Zhao Fu slashed out with his sword at the other centaur soldiers, causing a massive blood-red crescent to fly out with terrifying power. The countless centaur soldiers were instantly cut in half at the waist, and their upper and lower bodies were separated. Blood flew everywhere, and a pile of dismembered corpses fell to the ground, dyeing the ground red and giving off a dense stench of blood. The centaur prince looked terrified and had never thought that things would turn out like this. He immediately turned and ran. Zhao Fu turned into a ray of light, and shot out to stop him. The Centaur Prince said in fear, "You can't kill me. I'm the Centaur Kingdom's most prestigious prince. If you kill me, you'll definitely die a horrible death." Zhao Fu disdainfully swung his sword, sending out a massive sword energy that sent the Centaur Prince flying back 10 or so meters away. Zhao Fu then stepped on the Centaur Prince's head and said, "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" The Centaur Prince felt incredibly furious after having his head stepped on. But in order to preserve his life, he said in fear, "As long as you don't kill me and spare me this once, I'll give you anything. I definitely won't lie to you." Zhao Fu chuckled and asked for his purpose. "Do you have any ancestral items or things related to gods? As long as you can satisfy me, I will let you go this time. Otherwise, I will cut off your flesh piece by piece and roast it to eat. I have never eaten horse meat." The Centaur Prince quickly thought to himself in fear before saying, "There's an ancestral altar nearby. If we sacrifice the soldiers here, we can obtain the Centaur ancestral limit. Of course, the Centaur royal family has to be in charge of the sacrificial ceremony." Hearing this, Zhao Fu gave a satisfied smile and loosened his foot, and the Centaur Prince climbed up from the ground. Zhao Fu suddenly rode on his horse, making the Centaur Prince feel quite humiliated. He was a centaur, not a horse, and he was the prince of the Centaur Kingdom. He would not allow anyone to ride on his horse. However, when he thought about Zhao Fu's terrifying strength and brutal methods, he knew that if he said no, Zhao Fu would eat him up. Chapter 1603. Riding the Centaur Prince was purely Zhao Fu's curiosity. He had never ridden a centaur before, so he didn't know what it felt like. In the end, it felt quite good and comfortable. The main thing was that it was very stable and not as bumpy as a normal horse. Moreover, the other half of a centaur was a human, so it could attack as a warrior. As such, centaurs were natural cavalry. Cavalry was the most ferocious type of soldier in ancient times, and they were stronger than ordinary infantry. From this, it could be seen that the Centaur Kingdom was quite powerful. It seemed that after obtaining the Centaur ancestors' power, Zhao Fu would have to leave as soon as possible to avoid any trouble. After a while, Zhao Fu rode the Centaur Prince to the altar. This altar was extremely simple and crude. It was casually built from rubble, and some parts of it were uneven. It was only 2 meters wide and very short, only a foot tall. Zhao Fu felt quite doubtful and asked, "Can this altar still be used?" The Centaur Prince hurriedly replied, "Of course it can be used. This altar was one of the Centaur's earliest altars, and it contains even more power than ordinary altars. It's just that due to various reasons, we abandoned it." Zhao Fu did not say anything else and got off his horse. He threw out the centaur corpses and said, "Hurry up and start." Hearing that, the Centaur Prince hurriedly went to the altar. The Centaur Prince took out a dagger and cut his wrist, causing blood to flow out and drip onto the altar. The Centaur Prince chanted an incantation, and the altar gave off a blue light. The countless centaur corpses in the surroundings slowly turned into withered corpses, and their blood flowed into the altar and was absorbed by it. Boom! The altar gave off a powerful aura and gave off all sorts of blue lights before falling silent. The Centaur Prince looked quite awkward as he said, Sir, I'm not interested in you. I don't have enough blood to summon." Hearing this, Zhao Fu frowned and cut open his arm, causing some blood to flow out. Under Zhao Fu's control, it turned into a crystalline orb of blood and flew in front of the Centaur Prince. The Centaur Prince felt quite startled and explained, "Sir, I'm afraid that this is the case. It also needs a lot of fresh blood. You might not be enough." However, Zhao Fu calmly said, "Try it again. My blood is tens of thousands of times stronger than that of an ordinary person. A lump of blood is comparable to the blood of tens of thousands of ordinary people. It's enough to summon the ancestors." Hearing this, the Centaur Prince felt quite doubtful. In actuality, he did not think that Zhao Fu was very strong, as Zhao Fu was only so terrifying after using his nation armament. With Zhao Fu's Harmony Realm cultivation, the Centaur Prince was confident that he could easily crush Zhao Fu. Moreover, he had a king's bloodline, which was incredibly noble and reigned above countless high-grade bloodlines. Even he did not dare to say how powerful his bloodline was. Yet Zhao Fu had said that this small drop of blood was comparable to the blood of tens of thousands of people. How could the Centaur King believe such a thing? It thought to itself, Zhao Fu is simply too arrogant and conceited. For him to say such a thing, he must be dreaming. Does he think he has a sovereign bloodline? What a joke. Even if you beat the Centaur Prince to death, he would not believe that Zhao Fu is an emperor. However, since he had said that he would try, it would be quite embarrassing if he failed. After all, he would not lose face, so Zhao Fu would not blame him. Thinking about that, the Centaur Prince once again chanted, and the ball of blood in front of him turned into a ray of light and flew into the sky. Boom! An unimaginably powerful might spread out, and it was as if a massive hand had pressed down on the Centaur Prince's body, causing him to kneel down. The Centaur Prince's face became incredibly pale, and he felt extreme terror. His bloodline trembled as he felt a sense of despair. Just what kind of bloodline was this? The weather suddenly changed as countless traces of heaven and earth power quickly gathered. An elderly centaur elder giving off an incredibly powerful aura appeared, causing the surrounding air to sink. This centaur elder's aura was at the Emperor Heaven realm. His hazy eyes calmly swept over the Centaur Prince before slowly turning to Zhao Fu. His eyes suddenly widened, and they became bright and spirited as he said respectfully, "Lord Holy Sun, I'm very grateful to you. Why have you summoned me? As long as Sir Holy Sun gives the order, this old man will immediately carry it out." Sir Holy Sun. Hearing this title, the Centaur Prince felt quite shocked. This title was quite unfamiliar to him, as it only existed in legends. This was a holy son who reigned above countless noble emperors. How is this possible? This person was actually a holy son, and the Centaur Prince could not believe it. However, even his ancestor was respectfully facing Zhao Fu, causing the Centaur Prince to feel a chill in his heart. How could he have offended such a terrifying person? He was doomed. Facing the Centaur Elder's words, Zhao Fu's expression was calm and did not feel any fear. Even though the Centaur Elder's aura was at the Emperor Heaven realm because it was summoned and not his true body, it did not have that much power. At most, it was at the extreme divine realm. "I want to obtain the Centaur Elder's power," Zhao Fu replied calmly. Hearing this, the Centaur Elder smiled and said, "It is my honor that Sir Holy Sun wants my ancestor's power. I will immediately give it to Sir Holy Sun." The Centaur Elder's body gave off a powerful light, which condensed together and formed a blue orb of light. This blue orb of light was as big as a rubber ball and gave off terrifying power. It slowly descended from the sky and flew into Zhao Fu's body. Immediately, Zhao Fu felt a massive wave of power flow into him, and he quickly devoured this power and fused it into his body. The blue orb of light continuously became smaller and smaller before turning into motes of light and disappearing. After absorbing this power, Zhao Fu once again felt a pain on his back, and a blue centaur totem appeared. Now, Zhao Fu had 12 totems: the Jackal Person Totem, Minotaur Person Totem, Wolfman Person Totem, Lizardman Person Totem, Kobold Person Totem, Pigman Person Totem, Orc Person Totem, Leopard Person Totem, Goat Person Totem, Fox Person Totem, Naga Person Totem, and Centaur Person Totem. Each of these totems was as big as a plate, and they covered Zhao Fu's back, stacking on top of each other. With 12 totems on his back, it looked quite dense, but he was still quite far from awakening an Outlander Emperor's star. "Sir Holy Sun, I have a request. But I don't know if you'll agree to take my good-for-nothing descendant as a servant," the elderly centaur suddenly said in the sky. Chapter 1604. With the centaur elder's strength, he naturally knew just how terrifying a holy son was. Even an incredibly powerful and condescending empire would have to lower its head in front of a holy empire. His kingdom was just a small kingdom, and in front of an empire, it was just a small chess piece. In front of a holy empire, it was like an ant. The centaur elder thought to himself that if his descendant could form a connection with a terrifying person like Zhao Fu, it would be a massive opportunity for his kingdom. This was an opportunity that even an empire would not be able to obtain, and the centaur elder definitely would not let it go. This was why he had been so courteous before. Not only was he afraid of Zhao Fu's terrifying identity, but he also wanted to use this opportunity to form a connection. The centaur prince looked on in disbelief. He had never thought that his ancestor would want him, the centaur kingdom's most prestigious prince, to become someone else's servant. He was a prince. With his prideful personality, how could he agree? If it was before, the centaur prince would have long since jumped up in anger. However, the person next to him was his ancestor and the legendary Holy Sun, so he did not have the guts to do so. He could only carefully say, "Ancestor, I'm the prince of the centaur kingdom. Isn't it inappropriate for me to be his servant?" The centaur elder coldly harumphed. "Are you a servant of an ordinary person? You're the Holy Sun's servant, and this is the centaur kingdom's honor. Also, your father will personally receive the Holy Sun. This matter has already been decided." The centaur prince's expression was quite unsightly, and he did not dare to say anything else. Zhao Fu did not know what to say and wanted to refuse. However, he felt like he had just received someone else's kindness, so he hesitated. The centaur elder looked at Zhao Fu and lightly laughed as he said, "Holy Sun, I will personally report this matter to the centaur kingdom's king. I will personally convey this matter to the centaur kingdom's king, and he will bring a large number of centaur kingdom's specialty treasures to the Holy Sun. I hope that the Holy Sun can give me some face and stay for a while." Hearing this, Zhao Fu looked at the treasures and nodded. A while later, the centaur elder disappeared because of the altar's summoning power. However, a valiant-looking middle-aged centaur wearing golden armor quickly arrived with his soldiers. This was the centaur kingdom's king, and his strength had reached the peak of the extreme divine realm and was just a bit away from breaking through to the Emperor Heaven realm. He took the lead and crossed his hands in front of his chest as he steadily bowed to Zhao Fu. This was the most respectful bow a centaur could give. "Saint, the ancestor has already told me everything, and I've prepared a sumptuous feast. Please, Holy Sun, come," the centaur king said with a courteous smile. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded before bringing the women waiting by the lake to the centaur royal city. There were not many people at the banquet, only the core members of the centaur kingdom. After all, Zhao Fu was a holy sun, and if news of this spread, it would definitely cause massive waves. Even if Zhao Fu did not say anything, the centaur king understood this. At the banquet, Zhao Fu was naturally the center of attention, and thousands of people came to curry favor with him. Even the centaur king said a few words of flattery. Zhao Fu did not pay too much mind to these things and politely replied to them. However, he was quite interested in the things they had given him. The first was a few palm-sized pieces of jade. They were square and green, and there was an image of a horse within them that gave off a faint green light. This was a horse jade soul, and he could give it to the den to raise the Black God horse's strength to stage 2. Qin's cavalry was mainly made with Black God horses. Of course, the den would not be able to satisfy Qin's needs. There were only a few stage 2 Black God horses, and they would be given to Qin's elites. The second item was a blueprint called the Charging Spear. This spear was specially made for cavalry, and it had terrifying piercing power. It would greatly increase cavalry's battle strength, and with this blueprint, Qin would be able to mass-produce the Charging Spear. The third item was a fruit that looked like a lychee. It was white and gave off a faint fragrance, and it could be directly used without being peeled. This fruit was called the centaur horse fruit. If a person and a horse ate this fruit, they would be able to communicate with each other, and they would be able to work better together and increase their battle strength. Not only did the centaur kingdom give the centaur fruit, but it also gave a large number of seeds. Zhao Fu could take them back and plant them, increasing Qin's cavalry strength. Of course, this fruit was also effective for other creatures, such as the wolf cavalry. If a giant wolf or cavalry ate it, they would also be able to communicate with each other, but it would not be as effective as a person or a horse. There were also many other items that were quite useful to Zhao Fu. As a royal kingdom in the inner regions, they were quite powerful and had many good things. After accepting the items, Zhao Fu grinned and felt quite good. "Holy Sun, here's a toast to you," the Centaur King said as he raised a cup of wine and smiled as he looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu also raised a cup of wine and courteously smiled as he replied, "There's no need to be so polite. Thank you for your hospitality." The women were also at the banquet. Even though Zhao Fu had never revealed his identity to them, they had only found out that Zhao Fu was a holy son through someone else, and they felt quite delighted. In actuality, they had long since known that Zhao Fu's identity was not simple, but they had never thought that Zhao Fu was a legendary holy son. That was an existence that reigned above emperors, and ordinary emperors were unreachable to them, let alone holy sons. Thinking about how terrifying a holy son was, serving such a man would be an unimaginable opportunity and benefit. For example, they would become more and more beautiful, and their auras would become more and more alluring, and they would become more and more powerful. At the banquet, the Centaur Prince Ai Fei felt incredibly crestfallen. He had used all sorts of connections to try to change this decision. As the prince of a royal kingdom, how could he become someone's servant? However, the royal kingdom had unanimously approved this, making it impossible for him to change the outcome. He had never thought that things would turn out like this. He had gone out to hunt and encountered a group of beautiful women, but not only had he not enjoyed them, but he had also become someone's servant. A few hours later, the banquet concluded, and Zhao Fu said his goodbyes. Zhao Fu did not refuse the Centaur Kingdom's gifts, and he brought Ai Fei, the Centaur Prince. Apart from this, the Centaur Kingdom also gave Zhao Fu 30 or so Saint Realm Centaur soldiers. These soldiers had a lot of battle experience and knew some basic things about the Outlander domain. Adding on their strength, they were the most suitable guards. Most of the soldiers were men, and the Centaur Kingdom thought that Zhao Fu had a group of women, but only a man. In order to resolve this awkwardness, they gave these soldiers away. Chapter 1605. 5 or 6 days later, Zhao Fu and the others once again went to another kingdom. This place was quite close to the Outlander domain, and soon, Zhao Fu would be able to see what the true Outlander domain was like. Everyone stopped at an inn and rested for a while. The Centaur Prince Ai Fei acted like the leader of the servants, and he used his wallet to leave the inn. He then gave orders for the guards to stand by the door, and as long as Zhao Fu got off the carriage, Zhao Fu would not have to do anything. This made Zhao Fu feel quite satisfied, and he felt much more relaxed. After coming to the inn, everyone was incredibly careful because anyone could tell that Zhao Fu's identity was not simple at all. They were naturally afraid of offending Zhao Fu, or else they would not even know how they had died. Zhao Fu hugged the Naga goddess and Wolfman goddess, and the women sat at the table. The food was already served, and there was no need for Zhao Fu to do anything. Some of the women picked food for Zhao Fu, while others served wine for Zhao Fu. Ai Fei felt quite envious. Even though he had not dared to get too close to the carriage, the women's lewd voices had been quite loud, and he now admired Zhao Fu. With his centaur race and royal bloodline, he was incredibly powerful in that aspect, and he was definitely a stallion among stallions. However, he did not have the ability to conquer the women by Zhao Fu's side, nor did he have the ability to make them so happy. What shocked Ai Fei was that as these women did it with Zhao Fu, they became more and more beautiful and alluring. At that moment, a tall and handsome tiger person brought a few other tiger people and was about to enter the inn. Some tiger people had a tiger's head, a human's body, and tiger skin. They also had a tiger's tail, while others had human faces but tiger stripes on their skin. They also had a tiger's tail and ears, and their hands looked like sharp claws. Among ordinary creatures, tigers were the kings of the forest, and tiger people had terrifying strength. As such, they all looked quite ferocious. Just as they wanted to enter the inn, the centaur soldiers at the entrance stretched out their spears and blocked them, saying, "Apologies. This place has already been booked and belongs to our master. Please leave." Suddenly, a tiger man next to the young man said loudly, "What do you mean this is your owner's inn? Be smart and leave. Do you know who this is? He's the 7th prince of the tiger kingdom. How can your master compare to him?" Hearing this, the centaur soldier felt quite startled. This was the tiger kingdom, and if they offended the tiger kingdom's prince, things would become quite troublesome. The centaur soldier thought about it and went back to ask Zhao Fu. When Zhao Fu learned of this, he didn't care much about it. In any case, this one was too big for him to live in. Zhao Fu wasn't the kind of person who liked to occupy a group of people who didn't have anything. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the centaur soldiers immediately put away their weapons and made way. The young tiger man was expressionless as he led his people into the inn. However, the big tiger man gave a pleased smile as he said, "Seems like you're quite tactful." After entering the inn, the young tiger man saw Zhao Fu, and looking at the top-grade beauties around him, he couldn't help but feel moved and take a few more glances. Seeing this, the big tiger man smiled and suggested, "Your Majesty, those women are so beautiful. How about I ask that person to give you a few to serve you? With your noble status, that's a blessing that they can't even ask for." The young tiger man felt quite startled and shook his head, saying, "Forget it. Even though I'm quite moved by those women, they already have a master, so I don't want to steal them. More importantly, that person's identity isn't simple, so it's best not to make trouble." The tiger man didn't say anything else. He asked the innkeeper for a few superior rooms and entered the room. By now, it was night time, and within the darkness, stars shined resplendently. There was no moon, only a sky filled with stars. After eating and drinking to their fill, under the women's expectant gazes, Zhao Fu hugged them and brought them into the room. Following this, the indescribable things continued until late at night. At that moment, a few masked people stealthily entered the inn. They looked at where Zhao Fu and the centaurs were before looking away. It was evident that their target was not Zhao Fu's group. They started to stealthily attack the other side of the inn, which was the tiger man and the others' room. The tiger man and the others had long since been prepared, and as soon as those people attacked, they sensed them and took the initiative to attack. Bang! 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 Massive sounds rang out as the doors and windows shattered, and sharp lights shot towards the assassins. Facing these attacks, the assassins did not panic at all, and they exploded out with terrifying auras, easily blocking these attacks. Sensing the assassins' auras, the Tiger Man youth and the others' expressions fell. These assassins' power was much greater than theirs, and they would be in danger. Seeing this, Zhao Fu and the others' expressions changed. A tough-looking tiger man immediately said, "Your Majesty, leave first and return to the royal city. You go first. You must hurry back to royal city as soon as possible. Once you get there, no one will dare to assassinate you." The tiger man prince nodded and did not hesitate to give off a powerful aura as he rushed out of the inn and flew in another direction. The assassins gave off terrifying auras and immediately chased after the Tiger Man prince, but they were stopped by the Tiger Man prince's subordinates. The battle quickly erupted as both sides ferociously attacked each other, causing powerful gales and sharp lights to fly everywhere. However, the assassins' cultivation was quite high, and they had a great advantage. The Tiger Man prince and the others were not a match for them. The tough-looking young man was the first to be killed, and his corpse was chopped into pieces. Following this, the Tiger Man was heavily injured and quickly escaped. The final assassin was a beautiful, well-built woman with short black hair, tiger ears, and a tail. She was covered in black tiger tattoos, and she was sent flying by a punch into the room that Zhao Fu and the others were in. The assassins were mainly the Tiger Man Prince, so they naturally did not want to fight. As such, they did not bother with the big man and the short-haired woman, and they gave off powerful auras as they rushed in the direction that the Tiger Man Prince had escaped to. Zhao Fu angrily looked at this scene. The inn had been destroyed just like that, and the peaceful night had been broken. Looking at the woman who had crashed into the room, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and grabbed at the air, and a massive formless hand brought the woman in front of him. Chapter 1606. Facing this handsome young man, the woman had a bad feeling and hurriedly cried out, "Let go of me. I still have to save our prince. If he dies, the Tiger Kingdom definitely won't forgive you." Zhao Fu disdainfully harumphed. The Tiger Kingdom was only a dukedom kingdom and not a royal kingdom, so Zhao Fu did not mind at all. After taking off the woman's clothes, Zhao Fu started to do it with her. Soon, the woman forgot about the prince and lost herself within him, moaning in a lewd manner. Afterwards, the tiger woman, Hu Min, put on her clothes and prepared to leave. By now, she had come back to her senses, and she was quite surprised that she could recover from her injuries through doing it with Zhao Fu. However, Hu Min only glared at this man who had forcefully taken her body before rushing out of the tavern to save the prince. Zhao Fu lay on the bed and had just enjoyed Hu Min's body, and he gave a satisfied smile. He was not as angry as before as he said, "Do you think you can save him with your power? You'll just end up as a corpse." Hu Min's body paused and understood this. With her strength, she would not be able to defeat their prince, but she quickly thought of a way. She turned and leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace as she gave an alluring smile and said, "Good husband, can you please save our prince? If you can save him, I'll serve you well in the future." Zhao Fu hugged her and was not in a hurry to agree, and he first asked what benefits there were. However, because time was of the essence, Zhao Fu put on his clothes and hugged Hu Min as he spoke. It turned out that the Tiger Kingdom's king was about to die, and the princes had started to assassinate the other princes in order to seize the throne. The eldest prince and the second prince had died quite early, and the sixth prince had died prematurely, leaving only the third prince, fourth prince, fifth prince, and seventh prince. Now, the throne would be chosen among the four of them. Among them, the seventh prince's faction was the weakest, mainly because his family's influence was not strong, so the other princes dared to assassinate him so openly. If Zhao Fu helped the seventh prince and helped the seventh prince ascend the throne, Zhao Fu would be able to get everything he wanted. Zhao Fu thought about it and agreed. Bang! The seventh prince of the Tiger Man race was struck by one of the attacks. Like a falling boulder, he heavily smashed into the ground, creating a large crater and sending rubble flying everywhere. The Tiger Prince coughed up a mouthful of blood and crawled up from the ground before quickly running. At a time like this, only by running could he survive. If he stayed, he would definitely die. However, even if he wanted to escape, he could not escape from the assassins. Soon, the prince was surrounded by the assassins. The Tiger Prince said with an ugly expression, "If you're willing to let me go, I'll give you anything you want when we return to Monarch City." The Tiger Prince loudly laughed as he said, "Seventh Prince, don't waste your time. We definitely won't let you off. Brothers, let's attack together and kill the seventh prince. His head will be taken back as a reward." Hearing this, the others savagely grinned and prepared to go up and get rid of the seventh prince. However, the seventh prince's face was filled with despair. Shing! A sword hum suddenly sounded throughout the sky as an enormous sword light containing terrifying power shot over incredibly quickly. Before the assassins could react, their bodies were cut in half by the sword light. The seventh prince's face was also filled with astonishment. He hadn't expected something like this to happen. However, when he looked in the direction the sword light had come from, he saw a handsome young man holding his guard, Hu Min, in the air. The seventh prince quickly realized that it was this young man who had saved him. This person's power was incredibly terrifying, and it was fortunate that he had not offended him, or else he would have long since died at his hands. Zhao Fu hugged Hu Min and landed in front of the seventh prince. The seventh prince smiled gratefully as he said, "Thank you, sir, for saving my life." Hearing this, Zhao Fu's expression was quite normal, and he said with a trace of a smile, "I already know about your situation. I can help you obtain the throne, but you have to give me what I want, such as ancestral items and godly spirits." The seventh prince felt quite delighted because those things were not much compared to the throne. However, he could obtain Zhao Fu's support, so how could he not feel delighted? He immediately agreed. "That's no problem. I'll agree to all of them." Hearing this, Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. By now, the seventh prince had noticed the intimacy between Hu Min and Zhao Fu, and seeing her face become red, he quickly understood what had happened. He inwardly sighed. This beautiful bodyguard had been by his side for a long time, but he had never touched her because it was against his principles. If it wasn't for Hu Min taking the initiative, he definitely would not have done such a thing to a loyal subordinate. However, it seemed that she had long since belonged to someone else, causing the seventh prince's heart to ache. However, for the throne, it was all worth it. Knowing that the seventh prince knew about her relationship with Zhao Fu, Hu Min's face became red as she asked caringly, "Are you all right, seventh prince?" Hearing how concerned she was, the seventh prince felt quite good and smiled as he said, "I'm fine." Following this, Zhao Fu returned to the inn and looked at the pitiful innkeeper crying out. He gave him some money and told him to repair the inn before taking the others to leave at night. In order to avoid encountering trouble again, they arrived at the royal city as soon as possible. The royal city was where the royal city was located, so the various factions naturally did not dare to act too brazenly. This was especially so for things like fratricide, which the royal family placed great importance on. If they dared to act so brazenly, they would lose their right to inherit the throne. Within a residence in the royal city, a beautiful middle-aged woman with long green hair, a voluptuous figure, and a beautiful face, tiger ears, and a tail, as well as green tiger tattoos on her body, gave off a mature aura. She looked incredibly emotional and teared up as she hugged the seventh prince. "That's great. My son, I thought you were dead. I never thought that you'd be fine. Also, didn't I tell you to leave the Tiger Kingdom? We're not fated to become the emperor, and if you don't leave soon, you'll be killed by your other brothers." The seventh prince looked at his mother with a pained expression, but his gaze was resolute as he said, "Mother, as the seventh prince of the Tiger Kingdom, how can I cower? As the seventh prince of the Tiger Kingdom, how can I cower? No matter what happens, I must give it a try. Also, I brought back a very powerful person this time. He's confident that he can help me ascend to the throne, and he saved me on the way." Hearing this, the beautiful middle-aged woman looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes and said gratefully, "Thank you, sir, for saving my life. I'll treat sir later to repay sir's kindness." Chapter 1607. At that moment, the beautiful woman asked about something she was concerned about. "May I ask who you are and where you come from? Why are you so confident in helping my son ascend the throne?" This was what she was most concerned about, because this was a matter of life and death, and she could not afford to be careless. This was especially so for an outsider like Zhao Fu, who had suddenly appeared. No one would be able to easily trust him, so the beautiful woman wanted to know more about Zhao Fu. However, Zhao Fu did not tell her anything and said, "I'm just a passerby. You don't have to worry too much. Moreover, with your current situation, without my help, only death awaits you. You don't have a choice." Hearing this, the beautiful lady sighed. Zhao Fu was right. At that moment, a woman with blood-red hair, perfect facial features, and a tiger's tail and ears walked in, giving off a ferocious aura. She looked at the seventh prince and smiled as she said, "Little brother, it's time for you to leave. I knew you would come back." She was the seventh prince's older sister, and her name was Huang Chan. She was also a princess and was a general in the army. She had a small army under her, but it was the strongest force in their faction. The seventh prince looked at Huang Chan and smiled as he said, "Big sis, you know me the best. If we can't win this time, then we'll fight it out. So what if we die?" Hu Wanshan looked at the seventh prince approvingly before looking at Zhao Fu and asking curiously, "Who are you?" Zhao Fu did not reply, and the beautiful woman, who was the seventh prince's mother, Hu Ling Er, smiled and said, "This is an expert your little brother invited back to help him ascend to the throne." Hu Wanshan looked at Zhao Fu and felt quite suspicious. However, thinking about it, Zhao Fu's actions did not seem to have much of an advantage, so she temporarily put aside her suspicions. Of course, she did not easily trust Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu said with a chuckle, "Now, tell me how many forces you have, as well as all kinds of intelligence, so that I can think of a way to deal with it as soon as possible." This wasn't something too secretive and could be easily found out, just as Hu Wanshan was about to explain. A guard came up and reported, "Seventh Prince, the seventh prince. His Majesty wants to see you, so please come quickly." Hearing this, the seventh prince immediately left because the king could die at any moment, and his will could change at any moment. If there was a will, then it would be legitimate, and there would be more people supporting it. After the seventh prince left, Hu Wanshan also began to explain the current situation to Zhao Fu. Currently, the other three princes each controlled 20% of the Tiger Kingdom's forces, which was 60% in total. The seventh prince controlled less than 10% of the forces, while the remaining 30% were neutral. Helping the seventh prince's bloodline could be said to be relatively difficult. Zhao Fu fell in a deep thought. The seventh prince's mother, Hu Ling Er, lightly laughed as she asked, "Have you thought of any good ideas?" Zhao Fu slightly sighed. "It'll be quite difficult to help your bloodline obtain the throne, and I just want some ancestral items. It seems that the price is too great, and it's not worth my effort." Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Hu Ling Er and Hu Wanshan felt quite startled. If Zhao Fu backed out just like that, they would have much less of a chance. The seventh prince had said that Zhao Fu had power comparable to an Emperor Heaven Realm expert, and losing his help would be a heavy blow. Hu Ling Er thought about it and smiled as she said, "Chan Er, go out for a moment. Go out for a moment. I have something to discuss with this young master." Hearing this, Hu Wanshan felt quite startled and looked at her mother, wondering what it was that required her to leave. However, in the end, Hu Wanshan still left. After watching her daughter leave, Hu Ling Er gave a flirtatious smile as she asked, "Sir, are you interested in me?" Zhao Fu looked at the beautiful woman and lightly smiled as he hugged her, saying, "Who will be able to refuse a beautiful woman like you?" Hu Ling Er let out a sigh of relief. Now that Zhao Fu was interested in her, things would be much easier to resolve. She could use her body to form a closer connection with Zhao Fu, and she would be able to rely on Zhao Fu's power. "Let's begin then." Hu Ling Er looked at Zhao Fu seductively with her beautiful eyes, and her face was slightly red as she lightly hugged Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu did not hold back and pressed down on her and started to have a taste of the seventh prince's mother. 2 or so hours later, Hu Wanshan frowned. She did not know what her mother and Zhao Fu were talking about, and why they had not finished yet. Hu Wanshan thought about it, and decided to go over to have a look. However, she had never thought that she would see an unforgettable scene. Her mother, Hu Ling Er, was being ravaged by Zhao Fu on the ground. Immediately, seeing this scene, Hu Wanshan felt quite furious. However, seeing how happy her mother was, as well as her mother's goal, Hu Wanshan did not feel angry and instead felt quite moved. Her mother was using her body as a bargaining chip to obtain Zhao Fu's help. This was such great maternal love. Ever since she was young, her mother had done so much for her and her little brother, and she had never seen her mother so happy before. "Sir, please let me go." Hu Ling Er's face was red as she powerlessly begged for mercy from Zhao Fu. However, she looked over and saw Hu Wanshan standing at the door. Her beautiful face became bright red, and she felt incredibly ashamed and did not have the face to face her daughter. Hu Wanshan smiled as she walked in and took off her armor as she said to Zhao Fu, "Sir, my mother can't take it anymore. You should ravage me." Zhao Fu smiled and hugged her, following which something indescribable happened. Zhao Fu smiled and brought her into his embrace. following which something indescribable happened. Afterwards, Zhao Fu hugged the two women and enjoyed the warmth from just then. The two women sweetly smiled and lay in Zhao Fu's embrace, looking like two tame tigresses. "Sir, can you help us now?" Hu Ling'er gave a moving smile as she asked Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "You mother and daughter taste quite good. In actuality, I don't think it's that troublesome. I just need to kill the remaining princes, and there won't be so much trouble. Your son will be the only successor." Hu Wangchan said, "But they have countless experts and soldiers protecting them. Moreover, everyone is on guard, so it will be very difficult to kill them. This is especially so in the royal city. If you show yourself, the various stage 4 armies will instantly gather. Adding on the Fate Dragon's power, even Emperor Heaven Realm cultivators will only be able to run." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "Don't worry, just leave this matter to me." Hearing how confident Zhao Fu was, the two women understood that Zhao Fu was not simple at all. They smiled and nodded, expressing their trust in Zhao Fu. Chapter 1608. Hearing this, Zhao Fu smiled and nodded, and the three of them put on their clothes. This time, the seventh prince left for a long time and only returned at night, looking incredibly pale and dispirited as he said to his mother and big sister, "Mother, big sister, I think we should leave as soon as possible. Staying alive is more important." After such a long time, the redness on Hu Ling'er and Hu Wangchan's faces had long since disappeared, so the seventh prince did not notice anything. He just felt that his mother and big sister now gave off an alluring and mature aura. However, he had just suffered a massive blow and did not pay much mind to these things. Seeing her son like this, Hu Ling'er hurriedly asked, "What's going on, imperial son?" The seventh prince's expression was quite unsightly as he replied, "Imperial father called me over to tell me to give up on the throne and not fight for it. He doesn't plan on giving it to me, so he wants me to withdraw as soon as possible to stay alive." Hu Ling'er said angrily, "That old thing has always looked down on us, but don't worry, I'll definitely make you the king of the Tiger Kingdom." The seventh prince did not believe this and looked at his mother as he asked, "Really? But we don't have any advantage at all, and we're kicked out by imperial father." Hu Ling'er lightly laughed as she said, "Don't worry, you need to believe me. Also, it's quite late now, so you should go and rest." The seventh prince somewhat believed this because his father had already declared that it was impossible for him. However, he did not want his mother and big sister to worry, so he nodded and returned to his room. After the seventh prince returned, Hu Ling'er and Hu Wangchan looked at each other and immediately called over Zhao Fu and told him about this. Only Zhao Fu had a way to deal with this. Zhao Fu sat on a chair and enjoyed Hu Ling'er and Hu Wangchan's service as he thought about how to deal with this matter. He lightly laughed as he said, "Bring me to the imperial kingdom later, and I'll deal with this." Hearing that Zhao Fu could deal with this, Hu Ling'er said in delight, "Thank you, husband." Soon after, the sound of intense love-making resounded in the room once again. The sound was so loud that even the seventh prince, who was staying on the other side, heard it. However, the seventh prince felt that he had misheard. He knew his sister and mother very well, and they wouldn't be so lascivious. This matter quickly ended, and the seventh prince didn't care. Although he didn't believe that his mother would be able to help him ascend the throne, he couldn't help but look forward to it. He didn't know what method his mother would use to help him ascend the throne. "Where's the king's palace?" Zhao Fu followed Hu Ling'er to the palace and stood in a hidden place as he asked. Hu Ling'er pointed in a direction and said, "Husband." "Hu Ling," Zhao Fu said as she nodded and said, "Zhao." Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded and flew to the side. After coming to the king's palace, Zhao Fu found that it was heavily guarded. Apart from many Saint Realm soldiers, there were also a few Harmony Realm people. Adding on the Fate Dragon, it would be quite difficult to sneak in. After coming to the king's palace, Zhao Fu found that it was heavily guarded. Apart from many Saint Realm soldiers, there were also a few people at the Harmony Realm. Adding on the Fate Dragon, it would be quite difficult to sneak in. However, Even if he killed the king, the other three princes would definitely rebel, and the Tiger Kingdom would fall into chaos. If that happened, Zhao Fu would not be able to achieve his goal. However, even if he killed the king, the other three princes would definitely rebel, and the Tiger Kingdom would fall into chaos. If that happened, Zhao Fu would not be able to achieve his goal. After waiting at the entrance for a while, a beautiful middle-aged woman with white tiger ears and a tiger tail walked out with a sorrowful expression. She had a graceful figure, a white tiger tail, and a peerlessly beautiful face, and a few maids. It seemed that she was the Tiger Kingdom's queen, and Zhao Fu thought about it before giving a trace of a smile and following behind the queen. The queen was called Hu Bai Bai, and after coming to her palace, she had her attendants leave while she sat on a chair and started to cry. She had a son, who was the crown prince, but he had died in battle. Now that her husband was leaving her, she had no one to rely on in this world and did not know what to do in the future. Moreover, after her husband died, she would not be able to go all out, and the new king would be able to do whatever he wanted to her. She felt quite worried and felt immense pressure. "Queen, why are you crying?" A voice sounded out from behind her, and Hu Bai Bai thought it was an attendant and said softly, "Didn't this queen say that I want to be alone? I want to be alone. Don't disturb this empress." That person did not leave, and instead went up and hugged Hu Bai Bai, causing Hu Bai Bai to feel quite startled. She had never thought that this person would be so daring to offend her, the empress. She turned and saw an incredibly handsome young man. Hu Bai Bai looked at the young man and sniffed his scent, and her heart could not help but speed up. Hu Bai Bai had wanted to call someone in, but seeing the young man in front of her, she asked softly, "Who are you? Why have you offended this queen?" Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he looked at Hu Bai Bai. As the queen, she did not give off any aura at all and instead seemed incredibly weak, making people want to take pity on her. He hugged her and walked to a large bed. Hu Bai Bai sensed Zhao Fu's intentions and vigorously struggled. However, she was still carried onto the bed by Zhao Fu, and she was ravaged by that bastard Zhao Fu. However, she enjoyed it quite a bit, showing off how weak she was. Chapter 1609. The seventh prince had never thought that the entire Tiger Kingdom would change in just a single day. He, who had no hope of inheriting the throne, had become the next emperor, and he had not done anything at all. This was simply too easy, and he had never thought that it would be his mother and big sister who had sacrificed themselves to become the next emperor. Hu Ling Er and Hu Wanshan had been quite worried, but seeing that things had been resolved so quickly exceeded their expectations, and they now looked quite delighted. The next day, the seventh prince ascended to the throne. His mother, big sister, and beautiful guards were not present, as they wanted to repay Zhao Fu's kindness. They wholeheartedly served Zhao Fu, and of course, they called the queen over. After enjoying the women's bodies, Zhao Fu obtained what he wanted, which was the Tiger Kingdom's ancestral item. It was an orange-colored piece of amber that was as big as a palm and gave off an orange light. It was quite beautiful and gave off an orange light. Zhao Fu fused the amber into his body, and it contained the purest tiger person power. It spread out within Zhao Fu's body, and it was quite powerful, causing shockwaves to ripple out in all directions. This caused Zhao Fu's body to give off an intense orange light, and a tiger person image floated out from Zhao Fu's body before disappearing. Zhao Fu had already fused with the massive tiger person power, and he once again felt a pain on his back as an orange tiger person totem appeared on his back. Sensing the tiger person totem on his back, Zhao Fu smiled in satisfaction, and it was time to leave with the others. The seventh prince tried his best to persuade Zhao Fu to stay. He had relied on Zhao Fu to ascend to the throne, and he wanted to thank Zhao Fu, but Zhao Fu refused. As for his mother and big sister, he did not tell them about his relationship with Zhao Fu, and he left them a letter saying that he was leaving to go sightseeing. In actuality, he was leaving with Zhao Fu. 2 days later, Zhao Fu and the others finally arrived at the Outlander realm. There were even more races here, and it was also the most prosperous and lively place of the Outlander race. The streets were bustling with noise. Zhao Fu hugged who lingers delicate body and sat by the window to look at the scenery outside. Now that he was in the Outlander domain, he had to be careful. Let alone someone with Harmony Realm cultivation. Even someone with Emperor Heaven Realm cultivation would be treated quite pitifully here. At that moment, Zhao Fu saw a 4- or 5-year-old ratfolk girl on the side of the street. She had black hair and an exquisite appearance, and she had a rat tail. She was wearing tattered clothes, and she pitifully tugged at the corner of a passerby's clothes as she pleaded, "Sir, please help me. My lord, can you give me some money? My mother is sick, and I want to take her to see a doctor." Ordinary people naturally did not have a good attitude towards these lowly rat folk, and most people would struggle free and leave. Some people even disliked her for dirtying their clothes, and they rudely pushed the ratfolk girl to the ground. The little ratfolk girl fell to the ground, and her palms were scraped. The pain caused the little girl's bright eyes to become teary. However, she held back her tears and got up from the ground. She continued to tug at the passerby's clothes as she pleaded, "Sir, can you help me? Sir, can you give me some money? My mother is sick, and I want to take her to see a doctor." Zhao Fu had the carriage stop and came to the little girl's side. Seeing Zhao Fu, the little girl did not dare to go up and tug at Zhao Fu's clothes because she saw that Zhao Fu's clothes were too luxurious. Her mother had told her that the better a person's clothes were, the more prestigious their statuses were. People like that could not be offended, as they were incredibly terrifying and could easily die if one was not careful. She had always remembered her mother's words. This was something that people living at the bottom of society had to understand. As such, she did not dare to go up and looked quite afraid. Zhao Fu felt quite touched and softly laughed as he said, "Take me to see your mother. I'll cure your mother's illness." "Really?" The little girl looked delighted and jumped up as she happily looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly smiled as he held the little girl's hand and said, "Really? Hurry and take me to your home." All right, all right." The little girl happily nodded and held Zhao Fu's warm hand as she brought Zhao Fu away. The women on the carriage felt quite surprised because the impression that Zhao Fu gave them was that he was incredibly cold-blooded, cruel, and bloodthirsty. Even though he treated them quite well and was quite gentle, they had never seen him so gentle before. They did not know why Zhao Fu would treat a little girl like this, and they felt quite confused. However, they listened to Zhao Fu's words and waited where they were. The little girl happily pulled Zhao Fu along and came to a dirty and dilapidated alleyway before stopping in front of a small wooden house. "Sir, this is my home." The little girl looked up and happily smiled before letting go of Zhao Fu and pushing open the door and walking in. Zhao Fu followed her in. There was a beautiful woman with a pale face and long black hair lying on the bed. She gave off a simple and loving aura, and Zhao Fu could not help but feel even more moved. He could not help but think of his mother. "Mother, mother, I've brought an adult to see you," the little girl said happily as she grabbed the woman's hand and lightly pushed it. The unconscious woman opened her eyes with great difficulty and saw that Zhao Fu was dressed in luxurious clothes. She forced a smile at Zhao Fu and said weakly, "Sir, my daughter is still young and doesn't understand anything. My daughter is still immature. If she has offended you, please forgive her." Zhao Fu came up and lightly smiled as he said, "There's no such thing. Don't worry. I'll treat your illness first." After saying this, Zhao Fu went up and examined the woman's body. After confirming that it was just an ordinary illness, Zhao Fu took out a top-grade medicinal pill and fed it to the woman before taking out a small bottle of water of life and helping her drink it. Soon, the woman's face became ruddy and her aura was no longer as weak, and she became more spirited. "Mother, have you recovered?" The little girl smiled as she looked at the woman. The woman lightly smiled and nodded. She lovingly stroked the little girl's face before looking at Zhao Fu and saying, "Thank you, sir, for saving my life." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "It's no big deal. It's just a small matter to me." The woman said apologetically, "Sir, you saved my life, but I don't have anything to repay you with. I'm truly sorry." Hearing this, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and looked at the woman's mature body. He took out a few delicious fruits and gave them to the little girl as he said, "I have some things to talk to your mother about. Can you play outside for a while?" Looking at the delicious fruits in Zhao Fu's hands, the little girl smiled as she received them and sweetly said, "I understand." Chapter 16:10. The little girl sat at the entrance and held a fist-sized green fruit. She ate it in large bites and looked very happy. This was the first time she had eaten such a delicious fruit. However, after a while, she heard her mother's suppressed voice in the room and felt very happy. The little girl was quite curious as to why her mother was so happy but suppressed her voice. Puzzled, the little girl peeked through the crack in the door and saw her mother and big brother, who treated her the best. The two of them weren't wearing any clothes and were doing something intensely on the bed. Even though the little girl did not understand, she instinctively blushed and felt a bit embarrassed. Seeing how happy her mother was, she felt that it was not a bad thing, so she did not mind and continued to happily eat the fruits. An hour later, the woman's face was red as she breathed heavily in Zhao Fu's embrace. He hugged her and smiled as he said, "Come with me and leave this place. I'll take good care of you and give you a life 10,000 times better than what you have now." The woman shook her head lightly. "My lord, I want to wait for my husband to come back. He said he would definitely come back. I hope he can take my daughter away. She will only suffer if she stays by my side. I don't have the ability to take care of her." Zhao Fu frowned and said, "He hasn't come back for 3 years. It's very likely that he died outside. Are you going to keep waiting like this? If he doesn't come back, won't you just wait for death?" The woman chuckled and nodded firmly. "He is my husband. I will naturally wait for him to come back, no matter how long it takes." Zhao Fu felt quite displeased as he lifted the beautiful woman's face and asked, "Then what am I to you? Tell me about it." The beautiful woman blushed and said softly, "You're my master. My body and heart already belong to you." Only then did Zhao Fu give a pleased smile as he said, "You have to leave this place with me. I won't be at ease leaving you here alone. Also, I can help you find your husband's whereabouts. That will be much better than waiting here." Hearing this, the beautiful woman thought for a moment before smiling and agreeing. "Thank you, master. All right, Xiao Ming has been outside for so long. We should quickly put on our clothes and let her in." Zhao Fu gave a trace of an evil smile as he said, "So early? I haven't enjoyed your body enough. Why don't we wait a little longer?" The beautiful woman's face was red as she said, "Master, let's not. I'll come back later to serve you properly, okay?" Zhao Fu chuckled and agreed. Following that, the little girl walked in from outside and looked at her mother, who was already able to get out of bed and walk, and she threw herself into the beautiful woman's embrace with a smile on her face. When she found out that Zhao Fu was going to take her and her daughter away from here, the little girl was even happier. Chapter 16:11. Hearing this, Shu Chang's body froze and he turned and put on a smile as he said, "I almost forgot, so it's an old friend. Come, I'll treat you to a drink." Shu Chang brought his people into the restaurant and asked for a good room. Zhao Fu hugged Shu Su and entered the room and hit a few guards stand at the door to prevent anyone from coming in. Within the room, Shu Chang looked at his former wife sitting intimately in another man's embrace, and his expression became cold as he said mockingly, "The man you found is not bad and should have some status. You've most likely been together for a long time. Why did you come to find me?" Shu Su felt a stabbing pain in her heart, and her expression became quite unsightly. She felt quite angry and wronged. It was Shu Chang who had abandoned them first, and now he was mocking her for finding a man so quickly. Zhao Fu hugged Shu Su and comforted her, saying, "Leave everything to me." Hearing this, Shu Su hugged Zhao Fu and sweetly smiled as she nodded in trust. Zhao Fu looked at Shu Chang and a powerful aura exploded out, weighing down on Shu Chang's body. This caused Shu Chang's face to instantly become pale. He had never thought that Zhao Fu would be so powerful. At that moment, Zhao Fu said, "She's my woman now, so you better show some respect. Also, I didn't come to find you for anything else. I just want you to steal that family's rat spirit jade." Hearing the words, rat spirit jade, Shu Chong hurriedly shook his head and said, "I can agree to anything you want, but not this. That's the family's treasure, and it's hidden in the family's secret room. Not only can I not steal it, but even if I do, I'll die a horrible death." That family belonged to an imperial kingdom, which was an imperial kingdom in the heaven domain. Their basic soldiers were all at least stage 5, and that family status in the imperial kingdom was not low. Zhao Fu could not forcefully descend and steal it, so he could only rely on secretive methods. Zhao Fu thought about it and said, "Cooperate with me then. As long as you help me obtain the rat spirit jade, everyone will have a good life. If I can't obtain the rat spirit jade, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Don't doubt my abilities. If it wasn't for my worries, I would have directly destroyed that family." Shu Chang's expression was quite unsightly, and he felt quite shocked at Zhao Fu's power. After thinking about it, he nodded and agreed. Following this, Zhao Fu received information from Shu Chong that there were 3 keys to the secret room, and they were held by 3 people. Only by gathering all 3 keys could they open the door to the secret room, and only the people from that family could enter. Otherwise, they would be attacked by the formation and die. Moreover, Shu Chong also told Zhao Fu about all sorts of information, allowing Zhao Fu to have a detailed understanding of the situation and come up with a plan. At night, thick clouds covered the moon. The night wind blew, causing the grass and trees to sway in the dark. It was a frightening sight. Zhao Fu snuck into the family, and according to the information given by Shu Chong, he easily found the patriarch's room. The first key, which was also the most important key, was naturally in the hands of the patriarch. "Mother, I really like you." However, when Zhao Fu got close, he heard an indescribable sound. It was the sound of 2 people intensely entangling themselves. Zhao Fu snuck in and had a look. He found 2 women intensely going at it. One had a graceful figure and a beautiful face, and she gave off a noble aura. The other had a fiery figure and long, violet hair, and she looked quite unruly. They both had rat tails behind them, and they looked quite similar. Zhao Fu understood who they were, and a barrier spread out, covering the entire room. Zhao Fu suddenly appeared and smiled as he said, "I never thought that you two would do such a thing." Hearing Zhao Fu's voice, the mother and daughter were immediately woken up. Seeing Zhao Fu suddenly appear, the unruly woman said coldly, "Who are you? You dare to barge into our family? You're seeking death." However, Zhao Fu ignored her words and smiled as he said, "Is that so? I'll call people to come and capture me." This caused the mother and daughter's expressions to fall. If others found out about this, it would be quite bad for them. The beautiful woman was quite tactful and flirtatiously looked at Zhao Fu as she said, "Sir, you were watching from the side for a while. You've been watching from the side for a while. Do you want us to serve you together?" Hearing this, the woman felt quite startled and turned to look at her mother. She understood that her mother wanted to seduce Zhao Fu and then kill him. As such, the woman also looked at Zhao Fu seductively as she said, "Come, sir." Zhao Fu sensed their intentions, and this was exactly what he wanted. He smiled as he went up and hugged the mother and daughter. Indescribable things started to happen. The mother and daughter had been completely careless and had never thought that Zhao Fu would be able to give them such pleasure. They lewdly moaned under Zhao Fu's body and completely forgot about killing Zhao Fu. After everything was over, Zhao Fu hugged the mother and daughter and smiled as he asked, "Are you still going to kill me?" The beautiful woman rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu as she said, "Who would be willing to kill you now? Also, just who are you and why have you come to our family? As a family leader, if you don't tell me clearly, I won't let you off. I'll imprison you in our family forever and let our women play with you." Indeed, this beautiful woman was the family leader of this family. This family was mainly female, and the men were married into the family. Their statuses were not high, and they did not have much power. Zhao Fu did not hide his goal and set it. The woman harumphed and said angrily, "So you've come for our clan's guardian treasure and want us to cooperate with you? Aren't you a bit too beautiful? Did you think that we would agree to give our treasure to an outsider like you?" Zhao Fu did not seem to mind and smiled. He first exploded out with his power before activating the restrictions within the mother and daughter's bodies, saying, "With my power, I can slaughter your family right now. However, I'm taking your imperial kingdom into consideration. Also, your bodies are already covered by my restrictions. Even if you resist, it's useless." The mother and daughter sensed Zhao Fu's power and the restrictions within their bodies, and the beautiful woman could only helplessly compromise, saying, "All right then, I can agree to your conditions. However, that's the family's treasure, and I'm not the only one who has the final say in the family. If you can obtain the other 2 keys, I'll give you the rat spirit jade, but you can't harm any of our family members." "That's no problem. We're all family, so I'll do my best not to harm them," Zhao Fu smiled as he replied. Chapter 16:12. Seeing how bold they were, Zhao Fu pressed the mother and daughter under his body again and began to violate them. The beautiful woman's name was Shu Sang Sang, and the girl's name was Shu Yuyu. The next day, Zhao Fu went to Shu Yuyu's room to wait. Shu Yuyu was pulling a mature woman who gave off a flirtatious aura. This woman was her auntie, and she was called Shu Nanning. The beautiful woman was still a bit embarrassed. "Yuyu, let's not do it in broad daylight. It's not good to be seen by others. Let's wait until nighttime." Shu Yuyu boldly pulled the beautiful woman into her embrace and kissed her lips. The beautiful woman responded passionately before collapsing into Shu Yuyu's embrace. Looking at the beautiful middle-aged woman with a red face and a trace of lust in her eyes, Shu Yuyu gave a domineering smile as she said, "Auntie, you don't have any objections now, right? I want to play with your body right now. What do you say?" The beautiful woman blushed as she gently nodded and was pulled into the room by Shu Yuyu. However, after entering the room, she saw an unfamiliar man smiling at her. The beautiful woman had a bad feeling, but it was too late. Shu Yu pushed the beautiful woman into Zhao Fu's embrace. Zhao Fu directly tore off the beautiful woman's clothes and started ravaging her. Shu Yu happily joined in. After Shu Chong told Zhao Fu all kinds of news yesterday, he had been on tenterhooks, waiting for something big to happen in the family. He had also made all kinds of preparations, but nothing happened after one night, causing him to be unable to sleep well. At that moment, he heard the sounds coming from his wife's room and smiled. In fact, he knew his wife's hobby. Compared to men, she liked women more. He had seen his wife play with women a few times, and even her mother and aunt were not spared. Shu Chong wondered who she was doing it with today, and he couldn't help but curiously go over. Hearing that beautiful woman's voice, Shu Chang's heartbeat sped up. Shu Chong had always been interested in his wife's beautiful aunt, but he had never had the chance or the courage to do so, because this aunt also had a husband, and she was his wife's woman. If he dared to touch her, he wouldn't even know how he died. After listening at the door for a while, Shu Chong realized that something was wrong. It was not the sound of 2 women doing it, but a third person, and it was a man. Immediately, Shu Chong was infuriated. He didn't mind how many women his wife played around with, but he definitely couldn't accept his wife cheating on him. Shu Chong immediately wanted to rush into the room. But on second thought, rushing in wouldn't do him any good, because he himself would be marrying into the family and wouldn't have any power. At that time, he would be kicked out of the house, and in the worst-case scenario, his life would be in danger. Thinking of a luxurious and comfortable life, Shu Chong decided to endure it. At the same time, he was also curious about the man who made his wife and his wife's aunt behave like prostitutes. Hearing the lewd voices of his wife and aunt, Shu Chong couldn't help but have some reaction. He couldn't help but stay in place and listen for a few hours. In the end, the man hugged his wife and her aunt and came out. Shu Chong had long since hidden to the side, and he found out that the man was his ex-wife's man. In response, Shu Chong couldn't help but feel a trace of hatred. Putting aside the fact that he had taken his previous wife, he had also played around with his current wife. No man would be able to accept such a thing. However, thinking about Zhao Fu's power, Shu Chong felt quite dispirited and did not think too much about it. Right now, the most important thing was to keep himself alive. Zhao Fu now had 2 keys, and the final key was in the hands of an elder. This elder's strength had reached the peak of the divine realm and was just a bit away from breaking through to the extreme divine realm. In order to avoid being discovered by others, Zhao Fu led her out into the wilderness. She was a tall and slim woman with a serious expression. She had long white hair and a rat's tail, and she was called Shu Yue. Who are you? Why you have 2 of my family's keys? Shu Yue's gaze was cold as she looked at Zhao Fu. Her body gave off a powerful aura that covered the heavens and earth, causing the air to sink. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and did not reply as he said condescendingly, "Hand over your key and obediently come and serve me, and you'll suffer less. Otherwise, don't blame me. I'm giving you this opportunity." Zhao Fu lightly laughed and did not reply. "You're seeking death." Shu Yue looked furious as she gripped her sword and gave off a powerful aura as she charged at Zhao Fu. Seeing her charge over, Zhao Fu exploded out with his nation armament's power, causing a terrifying aura to spread out like a wild gale. Shu Yue's expression fell, and she quickly retreated because she was definitely not a match for this power. In response, Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and a massive black aura flowed out, forming a massive arm that slapped toward Shu Yue. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as Shu Yue was slammed to the ground by the massive arm. Her body fell like a boulder and heavily crashed into the ground, opening up a 10 or so meter wide crater. A trace of blood leaked out of Shu Yue's lips, and she got up from the ground. Zhao Fu appeared beside her and waved his hand, sending out a massive wave of energy that once again sent her flying. This time, she flew back 10 or so meters and coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and her aura became weaker. Zhao Fu appeared beside her and vigorously stepped on her chest as he said, "Do you think you can still run? I already said that if you're obedient, you won't have to suffer." Shu Yue coldly looked at Zhao Fu and grabbed Zhao Fu's foot, feeling as if her chest was going to be crushed by Zhao Fu. "Stop dreaming, you bastard." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he retracted his hand and grabbed her hands and pressed them against the ground before starting to ravage her. Shu Yue quickly submitted under Zhao Fu's body and experienced the pleasure of doing it. A few hours later, Shu Yue angrily pounded Zhao Fu's chest as she cursed. "You bastard, you ravaged me so much and didn't take pity on me at all. You even schemed with my family to harm me. I hate you to death." Zhao Fu smiled as he hugged her and said, "Who told you to be so disobedient? Now you know your wrongs? All right, let's go back together." Shu Yue angrily nodded. Following this, Zhao Fu opened the family's secret room and wanted to go in to see what other good things there were. However, he could not enter, and the women had agreed to give Zhao Fu rat spirit jades. The other things were too important to the family, so they could not give them to him. Zhao Fu did not insist. After all, his main goal was the rat spirit jades. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.